Chapter 106. Jing Yunjiao placed the ginseng in front of Qiao Hongye. Separated by an arm's length, Qiao Hongye could see it clearly. After saying those words, he stuffed the item back into his bag. After giving Qiao Hongye a cold smile, he turned around and went upstairs with Gan Jinchen. Qiao Hongye's eyes were wide open. She couldn't believe that Jing Yunjiao would humiliate her like that, telling her how to use the ginseng right in front of her. Coupled with the shock from today, Qiao Hongye only felt that her head was about to explode with a wong sound. She didn't manage to steal the ginseng and even offended Chao Xing. She had asked Chao Xing to do it behind her father's back. When tomorrow came, she would definitely have to explain to her father. If her father tried to steal it again, it would be fine if he could steal it, but if he couldn't, she was afraid that she wouldn't be able to take the blow. Besides, Jing Yunjiao was already on guard. If by any chance the people sent by her father were caught, then she would really be finished. Qiao Hongye's heart was filled with complex feelings, but she didn't know what to do. She left the neighborhood in a daze. The faint lights by the roadside made her figure appear lonely. The neighborhood and the hotel were only separated by a few alleys, but there weren't many people in this alley at night. Qiao Hongye had just seen the hotel when she was grabbed by someone in the next second. "What do you want?" Qiao Hongye looked at the men behind her in panic, goosebumps rising all over her body. The leader was Hua Zhe. He glanced at Qiao Hongye with a sneaky smile. "Little girl, you're quite impressive. You actually managed to get Chao Xing arrested. With your character, it's a pity that you don't work in our line of work." He had been following Qiao Hongye all this time, so he naturally saw everything that happened just now. He had to admit that the girl called Jing Yunjiao was very smart, but this Qiao Hongye wasn't bad either. No wonder she could trick Chao Xing into doing so many things for her. However, in the end, she was still a little too young. After receiving such a fright, she confessed to Chao Xing, that fellow, was a venomous snake that held grudges. That small crime would, at most, land him in jail for more than 10 days. By the time the detention ended, it would be too late for Qiao Hongye to cry. "I don't know what you're talking about." Qiao Hongye's face paled as she shook her head. Hua Zhe spat out a mouthful of thick phlegm. "Don't be afraid. We're just here to collect some interest." He had long despised Chao Xing's previous actions. After the incident last time, he had even taken the opportunity to take away Chao Xing's forces. It was just that Chao Xing had hidden himself so well that he had not been caught. But now, it seemed that it was not a big deal whether he was caught or not. It would be good to leave him alive for a period of time. "What are you doing?" "I don't know you guys at all. I have no relationship with Chao Xing at all. I'm also a victim," Qiao Hongye hurriedly said. It was definitely someone Chao Xing had provoked. Why did she have to be blamed for it? "Heh, brothers, she says she's a victim." Hua Zhe despised this woman even more. She had no backbone at all. He sneered and said, "Chao Xing has been helping you for 2 to 3 years, right? He helped you scare a few people in private, and they were all young. The most serious one was beaten until his leg was broken, and there are still sequelae. Your sister was almost raped by him last time. Do you think these things are flawless?" With Hua Zhe's words, Qiao Hongye was so scared that she didn't dare to say anything. Jing Yunjiao was not the only person she disliked. Jing Yunjiao and her master used to live under the same roof. He could make her life difficult at any time, but others couldn't. So she asked Chao Xing to help her beat up a lot of people in secret. However, not a single person knew that she was the one who did it. After becoming friends with Chao Xing, she felt that she could do whatever she wanted. Whoever she disliked would be unlucky. She never expected that others would notice these things. She thought that it would be fine as long as Chao Xing kept it a secret for her. Chapter 107. Now that Hua Zhe had revealed everything she had done, Qiao Hongye's heart was in a mess. She could only think of how to shut the person in front of her up. Chao Xing wouldn't talk about what had happened before. Even if he did now, no one would believe him. But now that these people had appeared, it was a different story. If any rumors were to spread, her days would definitely be worse than Jing Yunjiao's. "What do you want?" Qiao Hongye was submissive, looking very obedient. Hua Zhe pinched her cheeks, but he wasn't interested. This girl's heart was too big. It was completely different from her appearance. His taste wasn't that strong. "Brothers, do as you see fit." The employer wanted photos. Wasn't that simple? After he finished speaking, a few people surrounded Xiao Hongye to prevent her from escaping. One of them leaned close to Xiao Hongye, lifted her chin, and leaned forward to kiss her. Gotcha! Huaze took a photo. He smacked his lips. The angle was just right. The ambiguity was just right. Continue. Huaze held the camera in his hand, a playful smile on his face. In Xiao Hongye's eyes, he looked like a demon. At this moment, she couldn't help but resist. Unfortunately, she couldn't struggle at all. Her mouth was covered in an instant. The other party reached out and pulled her jacket. With a forceful tug, her fair shoulders were immediately exposed. The hooligan even pressed his face against her neck. Huaze took this opportunity to continuously take photos. Xiao Hongye's heart fell to the bottom. She knew that these angles would create some misconceptions. If these photos were spread, she wouldn't be able to clear her name even if she jumped into the Yellow River. It was a pity that Jing Yunzhao had spent 50,000 yuan. Huaze was still a man of honor. Naturally, he wouldn't just take a few photos. With the strength of a few men, Xiao Hongye couldn't break free at all. The other party was also an adult, so they knew what kind of actions would cause misunderstandings. Thus, a few of the photos looked extremely realistic. Once Xiao Hongye's expression didn't cooperate, the other party would casually pinch her, causing her to involuntarily reveal a pained expression. After tormenting her, an hour or two had passed. Xiao Hongye only felt that she was already numb, like a doll. Huaze and the rest left satisfied. Before they left, they searched her thoroughly for all the cash on her. Xiao Hongye became more and more dispirited. She didn't understand why today had turned out like this. However, what she didn't know was that the moment she walked into the hotel, Huaze and the others had taken another photo. The name of the hotel was clearly shown on the photo. Coincidentally, the photo was taken when someone was walking next to her, brushing past her shoulder as they walked past. All right, today's mission has been successfully completed. Huaze held a cigarette in his mouth and smiled widely. These photos were quickly sent to Jing Yunzhao's phone. Looking at Huaze's works, even Jing Yunzhao couldn't help but feel impressed. Are you satisfied? On the other end of the phone, Huaze still sounded cynical. Jing Yunzhao lowered his voice. I want you to send these photos to a few people I've designated. They must see them by chance. So troublesome? Huaze frowned, but then he heard Jing Yunzhao say, after you're done with this, I'll give you another 100,000. From today onwards, send someone to keep an eye on her. Make sure you know exactly who she meets and what she does. As soon as he finished speaking, Huaze became interested in the little boy on the other end of the phone. Deal. Huaze replied straightforwardly. Jing Yunzhao pursed his lips and revealed a slight smile. Chapter 108. The reason why she didn't copy the photo and spread it around was to let Xiao Hongye experience the feeling of someone talking nonsense without any evidence. Moreover, if the photo fell into the hands of other students, it would definitely attract the teacher's attention. At that time, although it would damage Xiao Hongye's reputation, it would be more of an investigation against people outside the school. After all, Xiao Hongye was still a minor. After hanging up the phone, Jing Yunzhao entered the space as usual to study medicine. After completely absorbing the first piece of spirit jade, she felt that the second piece was much easier, and her speed was also faster than before. The space was flourishing and filled with the smell of medicinal herbs, making one's mind clearer. However, as soon as Jing Yunzhao appeared, an ice-blue bug crawled out from the ground. The little fellow was a lot fatter than the first time they met. When it saw Jing Yunzhao practicing her martial arts moves, its chubby body started twisting along with her movements. It was very funny. Jing Yunzhao had spent so much time with these little bugs, and she slowly observed that this one was different from the others. Its color was purer, and its body was bigger than the others. There was even a blue coil around its tail, as if it was encircling its tail. The other little bugs all listened to its guidance. It was completely the king of bugs. Time passed slowly in the space, and it was also thanks to this little guy that she was able to relieve her boredom. Little guy, shall I give you a name? Jing Yunzhao placed the little bug on the stone table at the side and asked while nodding its head. This bug had absorbed Jing Yunzhao's blood essence and had already recognized her as its master. Naturally, it could understand her words. Its upper body was raised, and it shook up and down a few times to express its agreement. Jing Yunzhao's gaze became much gentler. This little guy was too cute. After thinking about it, Jing Yunzhao was a little conflicted. She didn't know what to call it. After staring at the little guy for a while, she tentatively asked, "How about Xiaolon?" A name that was too complicated always felt weird. The little guy shook again, and in the next moment, it climbed onto Jing Yunzhao's shoulder, trying its best to rub against her face and act obedient. The spirit jade mentioned that Xiaolon was a spirit insect brought back by the ancestor from a different world. It was human-like and relied on absorbing medicinal properties to maintain its life, so it was also known as a medicine insect. They also needed to eat. In the past, before Jing Yunzhao entered her space, there weren't any medicinal herbs in the space. So many of the bugs had starved to death. The rest of the bugs relied on the residual medicinal herbs in the soil to replenish themselves. Now that Jing Yunzhao was planting medicinal herbs, the bugs were the happiest. However, even though they were gluttons, they never harmed the medicinal fields. Jing Yunzhao opened up a separate area for their daily needs, so these little bugs were very obedient. After playing with Xiaolon for a while, the man and the insect continued to practice martial arts and memorize books. It was an extremely quiet paradise. The next day, Xiao Weiman appeared in front of Xiao Hongye to ask where Jing Yunzhao was staying. Xiao Hongye hemmed and hawed, only saying that she didn't manage to find out. Just a moment ago, Xiao Weiman was still welcoming her with a smile, but the moment he heard Xiao Hongye's words, his face immediately turned cold. "You didn't find out? What have you been doing here the whole day?" "Dad, I'm not a detective. How would I have that ability? Also, I met Jing Yunzhao before, and she even showed off her ginseng to me. She said that she would stew it for beautifying and beautifying." Xiao Hongyi mumbled. When she said this, Xiao Weiman only felt anger and heartache. She really said that? Xiao Hongyi hurriedly nodded. Xiao Weiman's face turned green. Prodigal plaything, that's something worth hundreds of thousands. She actually used it for beautifying? Is she even worthy? "You two, didn't I ask you to follow her? Look at what happened now. Such a good thing was ruined by her." Chapter 109. The more Xiao Weiman thought about it, the angrier he got. However, he didn't know where Jing Yunzhao lived. He was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. He was afraid that the next time he saw Jing Yunzhao, the ginseng would be gone. Having fooled Xiao Weiman, Xiao Hongye couldn't help but relax a little as she whispered, "Dad, I don't have any money." Her money had been snatched away by that man yesterday, and she had no money left for next week's living expenses. "Out of money? What on earth did you buy outside? Didn't I just give it to you the day before yesterday?" Xiao Weiman was getting more and more disappointed with this daughter of his. He always felt that the person in front of him was not the same person as before. Ever since Yi Qin's death, the situation in this house had been getting worse and worse. There was not a single day of peace. It seemed that this house could not do without a mistress. Xiao Hongye lowered her head. I lost the money." She didn't dare to tell the truth. If her father made a fuss, she would be the one to lose face. Xiao Weiman was full of anger. Losing money at this time was simply bad luck. No wonder he couldn't get any benefits from Jing Yunzhao. Xiao Hongye had been pampered since she was young and rarely suffered grievances. But now, she was being scolded because of Jing Yunzhao every 2 to 3 days. Her heart was already feeling unbalanced. She was thinking that when she went to school, she must make Jing Yunzhao even more embarrassed. However, at this moment, Xiao Hongye still didn't know that the one who would be embarrassed was herself. Hua Zhe was very reliable. Because of the information provided by Jing Yunzhao, Hua Zhe's men were waiting for the students on their way to school. "Look, TSK, this girl is so young. I didn't expect her to be so bold. She should still be a student, right? This is a student from number 1 middle school. On the surface, he looks pure, but behind his back, he's simply a slut." Another gangster added. At the side were 2 students walking side by side. One was called Zhang Hao, and the other was called Dong Yi. Both of them were Xiao Hongye's loyal escorts, and were also classmates with Xiao Hongye. The 2 of them didn't notice the things in the hands of the person beside them, but when they heard the words number 1 high school, they couldn't help but turn their heads. The two hooligans suddenly stopped in their tracks and fell, coincidentally, scattering the photos in their hands all over the floor. The two students picked up the photos out of curiosity and kindness, but when they saw the photos, they felt as if they had been struck by lightning. "Isn't this Xiao Hongye?" Zhang Hao couldn't help but say. These were their two goddesses. It was impossible for them to be mistaken. "Oh, do you know this woman?" The hooligan immediately sized up the two of them and said, "Is this girl very casual in school?" Zhang Hao hurriedly shook his head with a red face. "No. Xiao Hongye is very gentle and sensible. She looks gentle enough, but it probably has nothing to do with being sensible. Let me tell you, this photo was accidentally taken by a group of brothers. We saw that this woman looks good, and it's good to use her for eye candy. Seeing that you're quite interested, I'll let you take a look," the gangster said again. One by one, they were displayed clearly in front of him. Some of them were just kissing men on the side of the road, while others were disheveled. It was obvious what they were doing. Zhang Hao and Dong Yi's breathing became a little tense. They couldn't believe what they were seeing, especially when there was a photo of her entering a hotel with a man. It made the two of them so sad that they couldn't breathe. Who wouldn't like a girl like Xiao Hongye? "All right, if you're done looking, then return it to me." The gangster took the photo back, glanced at them, and reminded them, "This girl is very powerful. Some of us brothers know her, and we all say that her methods are brilliant. She made a few brothers do things for her willingly, and even broke a boy's leg. Oh right, she even robbed her own sister. I think you guys should stay away from her." Chapter 110. These two hooligans knew how to conduct themselves. They knew when to stop. After they were done talking, they happily left with the photos, as if nothing had happened. The two boys, Zhang Hao and Dong Yi, stared at each other with their eyes wide open. I'm not dreaming, right?" Zhang Hao said with a dumbfounded face. Dong Yi muttered, "I hope it's a dream, but it's not. Xiao Hongye, she's not like what we think." In their memories, Xiao Hongye was like a puddle of spring water. When she spoke, her voice was always soft and gentle. Her pair of eyes were filled with thick sweetness. One look would make people fall in love with her, and they wished they could give her the best thing they had. Her grades were good, her looks were good, her temperament was good, and her personality was good. Everything about her was like a character depicted in a novel. Being with her always lacked a sense of reality, but it made people feel relaxed and happy. Zhang Hao and Dong Yi were good buddies, and they both knew that the other party liked Xiao Hongye. However, in order to avoid bringing trouble to Xiao Hongye, the two of them even agreed to compete fairly. They both hoped that one day, they could win this beautiful first love. They even thought of going to the same university as Xiao Hongye in the future and becoming a pair of childhood sweethearts that everyone would envy. But reality suddenly gave them a hard slap in the face. The actions in the photos were something they didn't even dare to think about. They always felt that it was blasphemy to their goddess, and it would make the love in their hearts ugly and perverted. The two of them seemed to have lost their souls. Rather than believe that Xiao Hongye was such a person, they would rather believe that she was together with their brother. At least the latter's goddess was still clean. "What should we do? Do you still want to continue chasing her?" After walking for a long time, just as they were about to enter the school gate, Zhang Hao suddenly asked. Dong Yi shook his head. "I don't know. I just can't accept her like this. Didn't you hear what those two said? Xiao Hongye even broke someone's leg." "Oh right. Do you remember that Zhou Qingzhe from class 3? When he was in his first year of high school, he already liked Xiao Hongye. Every day, he would write love letters, deliver lunch, and even tell us to stay away from Xiao Hongye. In front of many classmates, he even said that Xiao Hongye was his girlfriend. But not long after, he was beaten up by a group of hooligans, and the culprits were never caught. I remember him. His leg was seriously injured. He had to rest at home for a few months. When he came back, he was limping. Many of his classmates laughed at him behind his back. He couldn't take it and quit school." Zhang Hao smiled bitterly. "And Jing Yunzhao, Xiao Hongye always pretended to be very concerned about her in front of us, but in reality, she actually found someone to rob Jing Yunzhao. No matter what, she's still a girl. What if something happened?" Dong Yi mumbled again. As soon as he spoke, the two of them felt as if something had broken through the soil. For example, Why did Jing Yunjiao speak coldly to Qiao Hongye now? Why did the school agree to let Jing Yunjiao leave the Qiao family? Why did the rumors about Jing Yunjiao spread? They were the people closest to Qiao Hongye. They knew better than anyone that a lot of things were unintentionally said by Qiao Hongye. Because they trusted Qiao Hongye, they felt that the things Jing Yunjiao did were far worse than what Qiao Hongye said. But what was the truth? They didn't know that many times, in order to help Qiao Hongye vent her anger, they deliberately exaggerated and wronged Jing Yunjiao. Chapter 111. Now that the two of them realized that Qiao Hongye wasn't like what they had imagined, their feelings towards Jing Yunjiao were a little complicated. In the past, they didn't think that Jing Yunjiao was a good person, so they didn't feel ashamed when they spoke ill of her. But now, they couldn't help but feel guilty. At the same time, there were 2 or 3 other female students who had also discovered Qiao Hongye's photo. Compared to Zhang Hao and Dong Yi, they didn't feel as sad. Instead, they felt that they had been deceived. As girls, they liked Qiao Hongye only because of her kindness and innocence, which stimulated their sense of justice. Now that they found out that the sheep was actually a wolf, their feelings instantly became a lot more complicated. Not only did they lose their so-called friendship towards Qiao Hongye, they even felt a bit of disgust towards her. Moreover, under Qiao Hongye's influence, these girls had more or less developed the habit of speaking ill of others behind their backs. In a fit of anger, they spread the news about Qiao Hongye the moment they arrived at school. The reason why Jing Yunjiao found these students was precisely because of their gossipy nature. With this move of hers, Qiao Hongye's flower protectors were almost completely dismissed. In the future, it would be difficult for Qiao Hongye to spread rumors, and she might even be unable to protect herself. Qiao Hongye went to school as usual. Her long hair was straight, and she wore fresh clothes. She looked like an obedient girl. She never liked to arrive at school too early, because in comparison, she preferred to walk to her seat under the gaze of her classmates. Naturally, today was the same. But she didn't know that because she arrived late, almost everyone in the class already knew about her glorious deeds. Just as she sat down, Qiao Hongye stretched her hand towards the drawer, subconsciously wanting to take out the things inside. But when she tried, it was empty. She was stunned and somewhat puzzled. In the past, Zhang Hao and Dong Yi would put a bottle of milk in there every morning. Why wasn't there one today? Did they forget? Qiao Hongye was a little disappointed, but she didn't show it on her face. She turned to her deskmate and said, Exine, help me tell Zhang Hao and the others that they don't have to send milk every day anymore. A bottle costs a few yuan. The girl named Exine rolled her eyes. Why didn't she see that Qiao Hongye knew how to act? Sure enough, people in love are blind, and people who are blinded by friendship are also blind. Hongye, before you came, Zhang Hao and the others told me that they kept the milk for themselves. If you want to drink it, you can buy it yourself, her deskmate said directly. After she finished speaking, she moved the things on her desk to another direction to avoid any contact with Qiao Hongye. She felt disgusted at the thought of this seemingly innocent girl being so bold as to be intimate with a boy on the street. She used to hold hands with her often. She didn't know if she would get a rash. Qiao Hongye's heart trembled, and she couldn't react in time. Exine, what are you saying? Did I do something wrong to make you angry? Without waiting for her deskmate to speak, Qiao Hongye suddenly came to a realization and said, I know. Did your parents quarrel again? Don't be sad. We can't control the adults' affairs. Moreover, the adults' affairs are very complicated. Even if they really quarrel and divorce in the future, they will still love you. You just have to be a carefree student now. Although Qiao Hongye was dissatisfied, she still spoke according to her usual routine. Qiao Hongye. Her deskmate instantly slammed the table and shouted. She continued, What does my parents have to do with you? Besides, they're only quarreling. Do they need you to lecture them? You even cursed my parents to divorce. I think you just can't bear to see others living well. Chapter 112. When you like someone, you can treat all of her words as concern. But now, this deskmate hated Qiao Hongye to death, so naturally, she felt that her words were very harsh. Previously, when she mentioned her parents, Qiao Hongye kept reminding her, asking her if her father was seeing someone outside. She even told her to go back and remind her mother. In the end, she was reprimanded. Now that she thought about it, the deskmate felt that Xiao Hongye was doing it on purpose. Furthermore, in the past, she was the wild grass that served as a foil for Xiao Hongye, but no one was willing to serve as a foil from the moment they were born. If Xiao Hongye was a genuine and pure girl, then so be it. But what was she? Everything she did was not something a student could do. It was simply dirtying her eyes. Xiao Hongye was shocked by her deskmate, and her eyes turned red in an instant. Xian, I'm only concerned about you. Xiao Hongye felt wronged. If Xiao Hongye showed such an expression on a normal day, someone would immediately stand up for her, but today was different. Xiao Hongye was like a virus, disgusting everyone. Zhang Hao and Dong Yi, the two loyal flower protectors, felt even more regretful. Why did they like such a two-faced person in the past? Pretentious. Her deskmate looked at her with disdain, then went up and directly dragged Xiao Hongye's desk to the back of the class. A dirty person like you is only fit to stay with trash. After saying that, she casually threw the leftover water bottle from the morning towards the trash can. With a bang, the remaining water splashed onto Xiao Hongye's desk, scaring her silly. But this girl took the lead, and for some reason, the other students also started to throw trash. Not long after, her desk was covered with all kinds of fruit peels, water stains, and toilet paper. It was so dirty that Xiao Hongye trembled. No matter how stupid Xiao Hongye was, she knew that something was wrong. In the past, her classmates were very good to her. Even if there was a conflict, it was usually the other party who apologized. This kind of scene had never happened before. Also, it was fine if Xian went against her, but Zhang Hao did not help her. Dong Yi did not stand up, and the others, they were not like this before. Could it be that today was April Fool's Day? School had started for so long, April Fool's Day had long passed. Xiao Hongye stood helplessly beside her desk. Seeing her classmates looking at her with disdain, she felt as if she was having a nightmare. However, no one was willing to talk to her, so she had no idea what the reason was. Time passed extremely slowly, and this scene only ended when the teacher arrived. Xiao Hongye usually made the teacher happy, so after her weeping pear blossom complaint, the student called Xian was naturally punished. However, this didn't mean that Xiao Hongye had won, because everyone was even more disgusted by her snitching. The isolation in school was terrible. Jing Yunzhao had tried it before. No matter what he did, he was always alone. He had to worry about his bag being pranked by others. He had to worry about whether someone would suddenly trip him while he was walking. He had to be on guard against other students almost all the time. Perhaps it might seem like a simple trick to others, but for him, it felt like he had been abandoned by the whole world. Only now, the person who was abandoned was Xiao Hongye. Class 2 was just next door, so they would be the first to pass on any news. When he found out that Xiao Hongye had become the target of public criticism, Jing Yunzhao naturally heard the news as well. He only felt that the stuffiness he had been suppressing dissipated in an instant. Chapter 113. Once Xiao Hongye's reputation fell, it directly affected Jing Yunzhao. On this day, almost everyone looked at Jing Yunzhao with sympathy in their eyes. The students in these few classes were all talking about how Xiao Hongye had secretly hired gangsters to rob Jing Yunzhao. Even Xiao Hongye's deskmate, Zhang Hao, Dong Yi, and the others tried to explain that Jing Yunzhao was innocent. Many of the rumors about Jing Yunzhao from before were instantly turned into fake news. She deserves it. When Xiao Haiqing heard that Xiao Hongye was being ostracized in class, she immediately became excited. Yunzhao, I just went to Class 2's door to take a look. Xiao Hongye was lying on the table crying, a pear blossom bathed in the rain. In the end, no one bothered with her. Those boys who used to support her were afraid to have anything to do with her. How satisfying. This person was found by Xiao Haiqing on behalf of Jing Yunzhao. Naturally, she knew that the rumors about Xiao Hongye were not true. However, it was precisely because it was unreal that she felt even more venting. After all, Jing Yunzhao had been suffering from this kind of misunderstanding and pain ever since she entered the school. Now that the retribution had landed on Xiao Hongye's body, it was time for her to have a taste of being wronged and isolated. Haiqing, thank you very much. Jing Yunzhao smiled at her. Xiao Haiqing rolled her eyes. What are you thanking me for? We're so close. Oh right, even though Xiao Hongye was unlucky, there are still people who don't believe that you're innocent. Those people really have a pair of eyes for nothing. Xiao Haiqing said angrily. Ever since she met Jing Yunjiao, Xiao Haiqing's patience was getting worse day by day. She had a bad temper, and whoever provoked her was dead meat. However, Jing Yunjiao was like a glass of cold water, cold and indifferent. He did not have her passion at all, so she was very anxious for her these days. Isn't the next class physical education? If I'm really pregnant, I won't be able to do any strenuous exercise, Jing Yunjiao said unhurriedly. Class 1 and Class 2 happened to be in this PE class. In the past, every time the two classes met, they would compete. This time would be no exception. When the time came, her classmates would know whether she was pregnant or not. She didn't need to explain at all. Xiao Haiqing gave a thumbs up to show her approval. Soon, the bell for class rang, and the students of both classes rushed to the field. Xiao Hongye was distracted and followed behind the crowd. Coincidentally, she bumped into Jing Yunjiao. Although Jing Yunjiao was still very skinny, she had practiced martial arts for a few months in the space. Her strength was very strong, and she had intentionally exerted her strength. Xiao Hongye fell to the ground directly. In an instant, Xiao Hongye's eyes reddened again. Jing Yunjiao was rather impressed. Her sister's tears came as she wished, and she could control them as she wished. Unfortunately, Jing Yunjiao ignored her, and so did the people around her. Jing Yunjiao. Behind her, Xiao Hongye helplessly struggled to get up and called out, "What's the matter?" Jing Yunjiao turned her body sideways. Her eyes were full of disdain, provoking Xiao Hongye. "Was it you who did it? I treat you like an older sister. Why did you treat me like this? Why did you wrongly accuse me?" Xiao Hongye bit her lip. During these few classes, she had secretly heard a lot of rumors. Only now did she know what others were saying about her. After thinking about it, she found the crux of the matter. It must be the doing of those people she had met that night when she returned to the hotel. The photos those people took must have been seen by her classmates. Moreover, those hooligans must have been hired by Jing Yunjiao. She had caught Chao Xing and found out about her past deeds from him, so she used the same method to deal with her. Jing Yunjiao was really too vicious. Chapter 114. When Jing Yunjiao heard Xiao Hongye's words, she couldn't help but reveal a mocking smile. Playing with eagles all day long only to be pecked in the eye by a sparrow. Are you blaming me? Jing Yunjiao said casually before turning around to leave. Xiao Hongye had always been scheming against others. Now that she had failed miserably, she was asking for trouble. But even at this time, she still didn't forget to continue pretending to be innocent. This perseverance was really admirable. Although there were many students around, Jing Yunjiao's words undoubtedly confirmed Xiao Hongye's previous actions. At this time, her grievances and tears could no longer make anyone sympathize with her. They even felt that this girl was constantly putting on an act, which was a little scary. Xiao Hongye secretly cursed Jing Yunjiao a few times before lowering her head and walking to the field. The PE teachers of the two classes were a pair of quarrelsome lovers. They had a good relationship but liked to compete with each other. Every week, this class would torment the students quite a bit. Today was no exception. When the bell rang, the two teachers led the students to do some simple warm-up exercises. After a few minutes, they directly asked the students to run 5 laps around the field. Jing Yunjiao's body used to be thin and weak. Every PE class couldn't last long. Even the teachers couldn't do anything about her. But this period of time was different from the past. Jing Yunjiao could not only keep up with the team, but she was also full of energy after a round of exercise. This made the PE teachers of Class 1 very proud. One must know that Class 1's Jing Yunjiao and Class 2's Xiao Hongye, these two top students, were the cancerous tumors of PE class. The former couldn't last long, and the latter would either have a headache or a stomachache once she went on stage. Xiao Hongye hated PE class the most, so every time she went to class, she would feel uncomfortable. The other students would immediately speak up for her, and the teachers couldn't do anything about it. Often, after a class, everyone would be exhausted to death. Only Xiao Hongye would sit at the side, tenderly looking at everyone. The girls were sweating profusely and looked like they had lost their usual image. Compared to them, Xiao Hongya's freshness naturally made the boys more fond of her. Teacher, Xiao Hongya opened her mouth as usual. All right, you can sit aside. Before he could finish, the PE teacher waved his hand, indicating that he understood. To be honest, the PE teacher didn't like such a weak girl, but she had good grades and was liked by her classmates. Every time he talked about this with the class teacher, even the class teacher didn't let him interfere. What could he do? He could only turn a blind eye to it. When the teacher from Class 2 said this, the female teacher from Class 1 grinned. Jing Yunzhao, can your body keep up? She had done it on purpose. They were both good students and had poor health, but Jing Yunzhao had been able to keep up with her progress during this period of time. Sure. Jing Yunzhao nodded. The female teacher glanced at the male teacher of Class 2 proudly and continued. Since that's the case, Jing Yunzhao, you'll lead the team. After that, the group of people began to run under the lead of Jing Yunzhao. But at this time, Class 2 was unhappy. Why could Jing Yunzhao run, but Xiao Hongya couldn't? Xiao Hongya looked a little fatter than Jing Yunzhao, and her complexion was better than Jing Yunzhao's. Every time she pretended to be sick, couldn't she be a little more creative? Teacher, I don't accept this. Xiao Hongya's deskmate felt cheated and immediately stood up. Xiao Hongya was fine this morning, and I don't see her feeling uncomfortable. Why can't she run now that she's pretending to be sick? Chapter 115. Xiao Hongya, this deskmate, was still a little provocative. Some people even thought, even Xiao Hongya's best friend hates her. It's clear how hypocritical she is. Yeah, we're all running, so why can she sit at the side? If the teacher is biased, then we don't have to go to class today. Another person said. The moment this was said, the students below all echoed. The male teacher's eyes widened. It was a little strange. Did the sun rise from the west today? Usually, he was the one who wanted Xiao Hongya to try, but no one else would let him. This teacher was a man after all, so he didn't really understand the thoughts of girls. Now that he saw so many people reprimanding Xiao Hongya, he thought that his previous teachings were useful. Xiao Hongya, look, everyone can run. Shouldn't you work harder too? The male teacher tried to open his mouth. He glanced at Jing Yunzhao, who was leading the team, and said, Jing Yunzhao's health wasn't good in the past, but she tried her best every time. Look at how obvious the results are now. You should learn from her. This time, Xiao Hongya really felt wronged and wanted to cry. Unfortunately, she cried so much that no one believed her anymore. Now that the teacher compared her to Jing Yunzhao, it provoked Xiao Hongya's self-esteem even more. Seeing how the others were targeting her, she could only grit her teeth and walk back to the team. Since you're here, then lead the team too. Our Class 2 students mustn't lose to Class 1. The male teacher encouraged, feeling very happy in his heart. His students being so obedient was really a big improvement in his education. Xiao Hongya's face was bitter as she stood in front of the 2 rows of students. She was a little nervous and a little angry as she shouted, 1, 2, 1. Xiao Hongya, why is your voice like a mosquito? Who can hear you? Her deskmate mocked. She wasn't lying, so she wasn't deliberately targeting her. Class 1 was less than 10 meters in front of them, but Jing Yunzhao's voice was very loud and clear. It didn't feel noisy at all, but crisp and pleasant to the ears. On the other hand, Xiao Hongya was weak and didn't have any energy. It was as if her classmates were collectively bullying her. Moreover, she ran very slowly, so no one could overtake her. As a result, her steps felt as if they were filled with lead, and she was tired after just running. Xiao Hongya was about to die from anger. She couldn't hold back her temper any longer as she screamed at the top of her lungs, 1, 2, 1. 1, 2, 1. Can you run faster? Do you think you're a noble lady? Are you trying to tire us to death by taking small steps? Someone in the crowd said. Xiao Hongya's face flushed red. Ever since she entered high school, she had practically never run. How could she be the same as Jing Yunzhao, that coarse girl? She had only been running for a short while, and she was already exhausted. How could she be faster? At this moment, Xiao Hongya's resentment towards Jing Yunzhao increased by another level. She didn't understand. In the past, Jing Yunzhao would faint from exhaustion after running a few steps. Why was his endurance getting stronger and stronger recently? Could it be that he was pretending in the past? When Xiao Hongye thought about it this way, she was even more certain that her guess was correct. She had even forgotten that in the Qiao family, Jing Yunjiao would often go hungry. He also lacked nutrition, so he couldn't withstand strenuous exercise. At this moment, Jing Yunjiao, the team leader, attracted the attention of many people. That person who said that Jing Yunjiao was pregnant behind her back is too vicious. Look at her. How could it be possible? People from other classes who were familiar with Jing Yunjiao couldn't help but open their mouths. 5 laps wasn't a small number, but Jing Yunjiao was still doing it effortlessly. If she was pregnant, she wouldn't be able to do it, right? Chapter 116. Jing Yunjiao's space was many times bigger than the field. Although the martial arts training was based on this move, it was more about the body's constitution and aura. She had to run for a period of time in the space every day, and according to the cultivation technique, she could even run another 5 laps without a problem. I heard from the people in Class 2 that the news of Jing Yunjiao's pregnancy was also spread by Qiao Hongye. Jing Yunjiao was running when she heard someone pointing at her and whispering to her. It can't be? It's true. My friend said that when Qiao Hongye saw Jing Yunjiao and Gan Jinchun come to school together, she started to make wild guesses. Other people didn't know the situation, so they thought it was true. The girl said again. Class 2 had been left in the dust by Class 1, so they were still at the back of Class 1's buttocks. Qiao Hongye also heard what she said. She secretly gritted her teeth, feeling extremely stifled, but there was no other way. Qiao Hongye stared at Jing Yunjiao unwillingly from behind. Her steps were getting heavier and heavier, but Jing Yunjiao was still unhurried. He looked like he was taking a stroll and didn't look tired at all. Suddenly, she felt like she was looking at the dust in the distance. After a few laps, Qiao Hongye's legs didn't belong to her anymore. Her classmates didn't let her go and forced her to participate in the following activities. The sarcastic words made her feel like her head was going to explode. She was muddle-headed. At this moment, a car stopped outside the field. The figure inside the car stared at the figure on the field with a complicated expression. What's wrong, young Masterly? Don't tell me you've taken a fancy to one of the female students? His companion couldn't help but laugh. His gaze swept across the field and couldn't help but sigh. It was good to be a student. Even from afar, he could feel the youthful atmosphere. Since we're passing by, I'll find someone on the way. Young Master Li's lips curled. He let the driver drive the car to the school gate and leisurely looked at the field, not anxious to wait. Find someone? You don't have any relatives studying here, do you? The man named Du Lin asked in surprise. Although the Li family's ancestral home was in Huaning County, Li Xiaoyun only came back for a short period of time every year. He didn't have many friends in Huaning County, and the only one he was really familiar with was probably him. Moreover, Li Xiaoyun's temper seemed like a playboy, but in reality, he had never been close to women. His patience was even smaller than a sesame seed, and he had never waited for anyone. Hasn't Uncle been feeling unwell recently? It just so happens that I know a godly doctor. I'll bring him over for Uncle to take a look. Li Xiaoyun casually found an excuse for himself. Du Lin's face stiffened. Young Master Li, are you kidding me? My dad just has a toothache. Didn't you say that toothache isn't an illness? Once it hurts, it'll kill you. Uncle is good to me, so it's only right for me to take the trouble, Li Xiaoyun said calmly. After saying that, Du Lin was speechless. Although what he said was true, his father had only seen Li Xiaoyun 3 times. They didn't have a good relationship at all. Moreover, shouldn't the so-called miracle doctor be living in seclusion deep in the mountains or in a clinic? However, this was a school. If it was a university, it would be fine, but it was a high school. Du Lin's curiosity was overflowing. He followed Li Xiaoyun's gaze and looked at the students. However, after looking for a long time, he didn't find anyone with the characteristics of a godly doctor. Moreover, they were all a bunch of snotty kids below the age of 18. They weren't even adults yet. After another 10 to 20 minutes, the bell rang. It was time for school to end in the afternoon. Li Xiaoyun's car was low-key and luxurious. These students couldn't see anything special about it. However, when Li Xiaoyun opened the car door and waited outside, his handsome appearance attracted the attention of many female students. Chapter 117. Du Lin thought that the person Li Xiaoyun was waiting for was probably not a student. After all, someone who was related to medicine should be at least a few decades old. Maybe he was a teacher at this school. After thinking for a while, he saw Li Xiaoyun suddenly walk towards a figure. His eyes lit up and he turned to look. But with one look, the smile on his face instantly froze. His expression was particularly interesting. Not only him, but even the driver's mouth twitched a little. Clearly, he felt that Li Xiaoyun's words were too unreliable. Mr. Li? Jing Yunzhao's eyes darkened. She looked up at the man blocking her way and showed some surprise. Li Xiaoyun was only wearing a thin white shirt, and one could vaguely see the muscles on his arms. Under his long and thick eyebrows, his eyes seemed to carry a natural smile, dazzling people who looked at him. The corner of Li Xiaoyun's lips curled up. Jing Yunzhao felt that this man was like a luminous body. He was really too eye-catching, especially since they were at the school gate. Girls of this age would be infatuated with good-looking people or things. She didn't want to fall back into the rumors she had just gotten rid of. She pushed her body back to maintain a safe distance. Li Xiaoyun's eyes flashed with surprise. "Classmate Jing, can I borrow some of your time?" Feeling the surrounding gazes, Jing Yunzhao frowned slightly and nodded. She reluctantly got into the car. After all, with the car window blocking, she wouldn't be admired like a gorilla. "Mr. Li, are you looking for me for something?" Jing Yunzhao asked politely. Li Xiaoyun was embarrassed in his heart. Something? Of course not. He didn't know what kind of evil he had done. Today, he happened to pass by the road and thought that school was about to end, so he came to take a look. Ever since he saw Jing Yunzhao at Uncle Su's place, he became more and more curious about this little girl. Especially since he would be returning to the capital in a few days, he couldn't help but feel that he should come and say goodbye to this little girl. Of course, he knew that they weren't familiar with each other. But no matter what, Uncle Su had entrusted her to him, right? He even asked him to take good care of her. Li Xiaoyun touched his nose and smiled. "It's like this. This is my friend Du Lin. His father isn't feeling well. I want to invite you to take a look." Du Lin's mouth twitched and he rolled his eyes. Pretend? Continue to pretend? Friends? She had never been so polite to him before. However, on the surface, he still had to cooperate with young Master Li. After all, he was his investor and major shareholder. Grinning, Du Lin replied, "That's right." Li Xiaoyun smiled with satisfaction. Jing Yunzhao's expression was strange as she looked at the two of them, feeling that they were acting out of the blue. However, since they were guests, even though she felt that this Li Xiao was a playboy, they had still met a few times, so he was still polite to her. Plus, he was someone Uncle Su knew, so it wouldn't be good if she didn't give him face. "Mr. Li, here's the thing. Although I know a little about medicine, I'm not qualified to practice medicine. I'm afraid I can't do as you wish. I'm sorry." Jing Yunzhao tried to be as polite as possible. "It's all right. Uncle Du only has some minor ailments. You can prescribe the medicine as you see fit. If it's suitable, just use it. If it's not, don't force it. Nothing will happen. Even if something does happen, it won't be blamed on you. Don't worry," Li Xiaoyun said shamelessly. After that, he signaled the driver to drive. Du Lin felt that today was the first time he got to know Li Xiaoyun. In the past, he felt that he was noble and elegant. Although he looked a little like a ruffian, he wasn't someone that wild children from small places like them could touch. But now, he felt that this seemingly pure and simple person actually had a passionate heart. Look at this girl. She was so good-looking that she didn't even care about her age. This level of shamelessness when it came to picking up girls was simply my generation's role model. Chapter 118. As soon as the car started, Jing Yunzhao's expression didn't look too good. However, she was used to enduring, so she didn't express too much dissatisfaction. After all, it was related to her medical skills. Although she hadn't studied medicine for long, she still had the ability. However, due to her age and status, there weren't any patients for her to treat. Now, even if it was just a small opportunity, she didn't want to let it go. Jing Yunzhao sat in the front passenger seat while the two men sat in the back. Li Xiaoyun looked sloppy, but at this moment, he didn't speak much. Du Lin couldn't help but feel awkward. He secretly glanced at the two and grinned. "Classmate, what's your name?" It had to be said that this female classmate's appearance should be at the level of a school beauty. She was thin, cold, and had an imposing aura. Could it be that she was also the daughter of some big family in Beijing? Jing Yunjiao. Her voice was faint as she replied. Dulin hurriedly took out a name card. "My name is Dulin. I'm a local. You can call me Brother Du or Brother Lin. Since we know each other, I won't be polite with you. Calling you classmate is quite distant, so I'll just call you Yunjiao." Du Lin had a fawning face and was very enthusiastic. Jing Yunjiao politely nodded. Looking at the name card in her hand, her eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. Du Lin, this person was also very famous in her previous life. He was a young entrepreneur who ran a large-scale restaurant. However, at that time, this person's career was still in the rising stage. The brand he founded was only very popular in the Ning City area. At that time, when she saw the newspaper, she was envious of this young and promising person. She guessed that his future would be limitless. However, looking at the information written on the name card, it could be seen that in this life, Du Lin's Imperial Skyfresh restaurant had just started. Jing Yunjiao suspiciously looked at the two people. Li Xiaoyun's Heavenly Fragrance Restaurant and Drunken Sky Immortal should have some conflicts, right? The two were actually friends? When he felt Jing Yunjiao's suspicious gaze, Li Xiaoyun's lips curled up slightly. Du Lin's ancestors were once imperial chefs, and the dishes and secret recipes he knows follow the group's instructions and cannot be sold. Although Heaven Fragrant Restaurant is high-end, its dishes are not unique, and its services are more comprehensive. The two are not quite the same. To put it simply, Yu Tianxian only provided meals, not lodging. On the other hand, Li Xiaoyun's Heavenly Fragrance Restaurant included entertainment, rest, dining, and other one-stop services. I'm going to start cooking in the county now, and then expand it in Ning City. In the future, I'll expand it to all parts of the country and even overseas. I'll run a chain business. When food and beverage is mentioned, everyone will think of Yu Tianxian first, Du Lin teased. "I believe you," Jing Yunjiao replied. Du Lin, on the other hand, was taken aback. Children are so gullible. This goal of mine is still very difficult to achieve. Just like now, I'm facing a big problem. Yu Tianxian has enough funds, the best location, and the unique secret recipe, but he doesn't have the best ingredients. Huaning County was surrounded by mountains and rivers. Logically speaking, the quality of the ingredients should be good, but although there weren't many toxins, it was still far from the level of the imperial banquet. No matter what he did, his father would shake his head and sigh with disdain. If he used Li Xiaoyun's connections to pick the best ingredients from other places and fly them over, the price would be unacceptable. After Jing Yunjiao heard this, she carefully put away the business card, and her eyes shone. Li Xiaoyun forcing her into the car wasn't a bad thing. According to what she knew, all of Du Lin's ingredients in her previous life were first-grade products selected from all over the world, and the cost was extremely high. As a result, although Yu Tianxian was famous, it wasn't down to earth. In other words, part of the reason why it was famous was because of its sky-high price. Ordinary people couldn't afford such a feast, and the business was limited. Chapter 119. Yu Tianxian was indeed capable, and Du Lin was also an outstanding talent. If everything went according to her previous life, Du Lin would definitely stand out, but he was still a distance away from reaching the level he spoke of. But now, Jing Yunjiao was confident. She and Du Lin, one lacked opportunities, while the other lacked raw materials. They were a perfect match. Jing Yunjiao's current attitude was a little more amiable. Li Xiaoyun raised his eyebrows, and a trace of darkness flashed in his eyes. This girl actually became interested in Du Lin after seeing his name card? Li Xiaoyun couldn't remain calm. It was just a name card with Yu Tianxian written on it. Compared to Yu Tianxian, shouldn't his Heavenly Fragrance Restaurant be more famous? Li Xiaoyun had never been ignored by anyone in his life, and he had never treated anyone so differently. Speaking of which, he had only met Jing Yunjiao 2 or 3 times. The reason why he came over this time was because he felt that this girl should be someone with a bright future. That's why he wanted to get closer to her now. If there was anything he could help her with in the future, it would be easier for him to lend a helping hand. But he didn't expect her to look down on him. But this was also good. Du Lin had some connections in Huaning County. When he went to the capital, Jing Yunjiao could ask Du Lin for help if she needed anything. After all, she was the girl that Uncle Su cared about. The Li and Su families had a good relationship, so Li Xiaoyan naturally felt that this girl was one of them. Li Xiaoyan restrained his temper and raised his eyes to ask, "You're interested in Yu Tianxian?" Jing Yunjiao thought for a moment before saying, "My master is interested in growing herbs, grains, vegetables, and the like. He has researched very good planting techniques, and the things he grows are absolutely free of pollution and harm." After hearing Big Brother Du's words, "I think I can replace my master and work with Yu Tianxian." Ah, Du Lin was stunned and didn't react. "You're saying you want to work with me? You mean, sell ingredients to me?" Du Lin asked in disbelief. After saying that, he laughed to himself. "Actually, if this was a normal restaurant, I wouldn't mind working with an acquaintance. But Yu Tianxian is the hope of my father and I, so I can't be too casual. The ingredients I want must completely meet the requirements I have in mind." Jing Yunjiao still nodded seriously. He didn't seem to be joking. She didn't feel that she was taking advantage of Du Lin. One must know that it wasn't difficult to sell the things in her space. If it weren't for her age, any restaurant would be happy to cooperate with her. It was only a matter of time before she wanted to make money. On the other hand, Du Lin was different. Without the best ingredients, no matter how precious his secret recipe was, it would not be able to meet the requirements in his heart, and it would be further away from his goal. How about this? I'll send a cart of things to your Yu Tianxian tonight. Everything will be done according to your rules. If I can't pass your test, I'll take the things and leave. I won't make things difficult for you." Jing Yunjiao was still calm. Jing Yunjiao couldn't help but laugh in her heart. She was sure that once Du Lin identified the item she sent, everything else would be easy to handle. She would even be the one in control. Du Lin looked at her suspiciously and felt that his brain was stuffed with paste. Fortunately, Jing Yunjiao said that as long as he wasn't satisfied, he wouldn't force it. Since that was the case, he didn't have to give young Master Li face. He secretly glanced at young Master Li, seeing that he didn't have any intention of interfering. He sighed in relief. This Yu Tianxian was built by him, but Li Xiaoyun was his partner. Of course, he was the one who pestered Li Xiaoyun to get involved. After all, Li Xiaoyun's identity was special. Even in Huaning County, no one dared to provoke him. Standing on the same boat as him was impossible to sink. Therefore, if young Master Li agreed, there was nothing he could do. Fortunately, young Master Li wasn't a muddle-headed person. Chapter 120. After all, Du Lin did not know Li Xiaoyan well. At this moment, Li Xiaoyan did not think too much about Yu Tianxian. Instead, he felt the confidence emanating from Jing Yunjiao. The few times he had seen Jing Yunjiao were short, but they were still fresh in his mind. Even among her peers, there were few who were as calm as her. From the moment she decisively saved the girl and turned a blind eye to the blood flowing from the girl's forehead, he knew this girl was extraordinary. He had always been indifferent and did not like to meddle in other people's business. He was also too lazy to care about people who had nothing to do with him. However, after seeing her stubbornness, he felt that such a person was rare. If he could help her and get to know her, he would be lucky. Therefore, when Jing Yunjiao said that she could work with Yu Tianxian, he subconsciously believed her. Perhaps this was a kind of attraction between people of the same kind. Li Xiaoyun had a faint smile on his face, looking very gentlemanly. Along the way, he would occasionally say a few words, but most of them were about Jing Yunjiao's current situation. For example, what kind of family raised such a girl? Another example was how Jing Yunjiao's grades were, what kind of university she wanted to go to, and what she wanted to do when she grew up. He looked like an elder asking all these questions. Jing Yunjiao felt lucky that this man was only 24 or 25 years old. If he was a middle-aged uncle, who knows how long-winded he would be. After about 20 minutes, the car stopped in a small district. There were many small villas inside, but they were not luxurious or eye-catching. Although Du Lin was suspicious of Jing Yunjiao, he still politely invited her in. The house was very quiet. There was only an old man, fiddling with something in the kitchen. Dad, this ice is so cold. Why are you sucking it? I'm going to puke. After Du Lin asked the two to sit down, he immediately went forward and heard a worried voice. On the way, Jing Yunjiao also heard Du Lin mention that his mother had passed away early, and it was his father who brought him up. His father was not very old and had not reached the age where all of his teeth had fallen out, but this person would always have some problems. Uncle Du had a toothache, and when the pain was severe, he would neglect the taste of the dishes. In his life, his greatest strength was in cooking, so he was extremely anxious. Why do you care? Once I put the ice in my mouth, it doesn't hurt as much. The old man mumbled, but when he noticed that there were guests, he changed his tone. Young Masterly, you're here? You bastard. Why didn't you say so earlier? I could have prepared a few good dishes to entertain you. As he spoke, the old man quickly stepped forward. When he saw Jing Yunjiao, a strange little girl, he was somewhat surprised and puzzled. Uncle, this is the doctor I found for you. Let her take a look at your teeth. Li Xiaoyun was also very direct. Jing Yunjiao couldn't help but admire this man. When it came to doctors, she herself was a little guilty, but Li Xiaoyun was very calm, as if she was really an amazing doctor. Uncle Du was only stunned for a moment. Young Master Li introduced her? Then she must be capable. Little girl, don't be afraid. Just watch. Jing Yunjiao was even more surprised. How much did this old man trust Li Xiaoyun? She felt that even if this family was sold by Li Xiaoyun, they would still help him count the money. My father has said so. Yunjiao, don't worry and watch. Du Lin also understood his father very well and directly comforted him. Since the person involved was so magnanimous, Jing Yunjiao naturally wouldn't restrain herself. She first looked at the old man's complexion and had him open his mouth to take a look. Then, she solemnly checked his pulse. Her deadpan look really scared Du Lin. Chapter 121. After a brief moment, Jing Yunjiao retracted his hand. How is it? Du Lin asked with concern. At the same time, he was curious as to what Jing Yunjiao would say. The three men in the room stared at Jing Yunjiao, which made Jing Yunjiao a little uncomfortable. So he asked, Uncle Du, do you feel bitter in your mouth recently? Nodding his head, Uncle Du replied, That's right. Furthermore, my teeth can't be touched. The slightest touch will cause heart-wrenching pain. He wasn't afraid of pain, but it would affect his taste buds. Do you have a fever recently? Jing Yunjiao asked. Uncle Du nodded his head once more. Du Lin instantly felt deep respect for Su Tao. When he accompanied his father to the hospital, the doctors would only ask about his condition. No one could see through it like Jing Yunjiao. What medicine did the doctor prescribe? An anti-inflammatory needle? Jing Yunjiao's tone was still light as she asked again. When he finished speaking, Du Lin's eyes nearly popped out, and he immediately gave a thumbs up. That's right. He was treated with Western medicine and injected with anti-inflammatory injection. But it has been 2 to 3 days, and he still hasn't recovered. The anti-inflammatory injection was something that Jing Yunjiao guessed. If it was a national healer, they would generally prescribe some gunpowder. As long as the doctor wasn't a quack, they would definitely be able to alleviate Uncle Du's toothache. However, he still hasn't recovered after a few days. It wasn't that Jing Yunjiao looked down on Western medicine, but he felt that they both had their own strengths. This illness is easy to treat, but I'll have to trouble Big Brother Du to buy some herbs. I don't need much, just angelica, cinnabar, and bramble. Oh right. Do you have honey at home? Jing Yunjiao did not have a National Healer's Qualification Certificate, so he naturally wouldn't take the initiative to write a prescription. Furthermore, the herbs that he needed were simple and non-toxic, so there would definitely be some in the pharmacy. At this moment, Du Lin believed in Jing Yunjiao's words. He immediately nodded his head and took note of it. After packing his things, he rushed out in 2 to 3 minutes. Fortunately, there was a pharmacy nearby, so it didn't take long for Du Lin to return. Jing Yunjiao borrowed the Du family's kitchen and dried the Angelica dihurica into powder. He then mixed it with honey and powder and wrapped it with cinnabar. After a short while, he prepared the medicine and had Old Man Du drink it with bramble water. The medicine was not yet effective, but it would definitely make her feel better in a few hours. Uncle Du, don't eat anything spicy or heaty these days. You should also pay more attention to rest and don't get angry. Jing Yunjiao reminded him again. Uncle Du's doctor must have told him these words before, so Uncle Du agreed. He didn't know if it was a psychological effect, but he felt that his teeth didn't hurt as much as before. Moreover, this little girl looked young, but her words were light and gentle, and she was very calm. This made the anger in his heart subside a lot. Du Lin was completely intimidated by Jing Yunzhao. He looked at Jing Yunzhao with a cautious expression, as if Jing Yunzhao was a rare monster. At the same time, he couldn't help feeling guilty for his doubts earlier. When Jing Yunzhao delivered the ingredients tonight, even if the ingredients weren't good, he still had to be polite to avoid hurting her heart. Jing Yunzhao still had classes in the afternoon, so she did not stay in the Du family for long. After eating the meal personally prepared by Du Lin, she was sent back by Li Xiaoyun. She had to admit that the Du family's culinary skills were pretty good. The food here was even more delicious than the heavenly fragrance restaurant. They were truly worthy of being the descendants of the imperial chefs. At the same time, her thoughts of cooperation also became more active. Chapter 122. Jing Yunzhao's space was very large, so in addition to some medicinal herbs, she also planted a lot of fruits and vegetables. Because of the blue spring in the space, these things were fresher than the ones outside. After 2 classes in the afternoon, Jing Yunzhao asked for leave from her homeroom teacher and rented a small farmhouse in the county town. The house wasn't considered remote and was similar to the place where Uncle Su lived, but it was slightly quieter. It was surrounded by courtyards with closed doors. It was very cold and cheerless, a little different from the houses in town. This kind of place just happened to meet Jing Yunzhao's requirements. It wasn't eye-catching and could be considered a transit station for the supplies in her space. The space had the ability to preserve freshness, so Jing Yunzhao didn't take out the fruits and vegetables she wanted to send over until nighttime. She rented a car and sent the things to Yu Tianxian's door. Yu Tianxian's decoration was simple and scholarly. It wasn't as luxurious as the heavenly fragrance restaurant, but it gave people a relaxed feeling. It was elegant and simple, with dark colors as the main theme. The area wasn't very large, but it was much more imposing than the other restaurants around it. Du Lin waited for a long time. When he saw Jing Yunzhao, he immediately hugged her and said gratefully, "My dad said his tooth is much better. He told me to thank you properly. Take the medicine again tonight, and the pain will probably be gone by tomorrow. But if you want to fully recover, you'll have to control your diet," Jing Yunzhao said. Du Lin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Why would a student like you know all this? You're amazing, but you talk like an old man. I really don't know what kind of person taught you to be such a freak. When he first saw Jing Yunzhao, he thought she was a beautiful little white flower of 15 or 16 years old. But in the blink of an eye, her image changed into a mature doctor in his heart. She didn't look like a student at all. She wasn't lively or cute enough. However, perhaps he was first intimidated by her brilliant appearance. But when he thought of the words lively and cute, he couldn't bring himself to think of Jing Yunzhao. If such a calm and smiling face were to act cute in front of him, he really wouldn't be able to bear it. Du Lin couldn't help but treat her as an adult, so he didn't feel so restrained when he talked to her. He asked someone to take some ingredients out of the car and carefully looked at them. They were fresh and tasted good. There was no smell of medicine at all. Actually, he already felt it when he got close. The sweet smell of the fruits could be smelled even from a distance. However, when he actually pinched those things and tasted them in his mouth, he was truly surprised. He found a treasure. His tongue was a crafty ancestral inheritance. What kind of taste could he not taste? One thing was for sure. If he used Jing Yunzhao's ingredients to cook, he would definitely be able to perfectly display the skills passed down by his ancestors, or even better. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Get the things out of the car. Everyone be careful. Du Lin's face was smiling like a chrysanthemum. He was so excited that he almost forgot that these things belonged to Jing Yunzhao. If they were friends, she wouldn't mind giving these things to Du Lin, but Jing Yunzhao wanted to work with Du Lin, so how could she let go of such a good opportunity? He narrowed his eyes and extended his hand to stop Du Lin from rushing into the car. "Mr. Du, since I've satisfied your request, shouldn't we talk about the price?" Du Lin felt a chill down his spine. He suddenly remembered that he doubted Jing Yunzhao before. Now, his little sister had a temper. He grinned and continued to smile. Don't call me boss, do call me brother, do. It sounds nice and intimate, right? Come, let's talk inside. Don't worry, the price is definitely negotiable. If he rejected such a good ingredient, his father would beat him to death when he returned. Chapter 123. Du Lin's attitude took a 180-degree turn. He was afraid that Jing Yunjiao would take the things and run away. After preparing a private room, Du Lin felt that his sincerity had reached its peak, and only then did he seriously open his mouth. Yunjiao Mimi, do you have a lot of these goods? How long can you keep delivering them? If there was only a cart of vegetables, the business would not be successful. He had such a big restaurant, and it was possible to expand in the future. The quantity he needed would not be small. Don't worry about the goods. My master left those things for me to distribute. If you're sure that you want them and the price is right, write down the quantity and type when you need them. I will deliver them to you the next morning, Jing Yunjiao said. The fruits and vegetables from the space might still have some of the space's aura, so they would rot slower than ordinary vegetables. It should not be so troublesome to deliver them every day. Du Lin's eyes lit up. Good. As long as your goods are good enough, the price I give you will definitely be higher than the market price. You won't lose out. I still have a few months before I turn 16, so the contract will only be signed after I turn 16. Don't worry, I use my own labor as my main source of income, so I have the qualifications to sign the contract after I turn 16. However, during this period of time, I hope that you can fulfill the verbal agreement. The funds cannot be delayed. Also, other than the aquatic products, you can only accept my family's goods for these fruits and vegetables. If you can't do it, I will consider not signing the contract when the time comes, Jing Yunjiao said seriously. The most troublesome thing for her now was her age. She was not yet 16, so everything she did was limited. In addition to the contract, the medical qualification certificate was also a headache for her. Based on her current situation, it was best for her to follow the path of a master, but it also required years of practice to obtain the qualification. There was no way for her to do so for the time being. Jing Yunjiao's words made Du Lin feel a little irritated. What did she mean by using her own labor as her source of income? In other words, she was supporting herself? She was not yet 16. God, when he was 16, he was beaten by his father because of his grades. I won't delay the payment. After all, you're someone that young masterly knows. Why would I do something that would harm my own people? Du Lin relaxed a little and said, but Sister Yunjiao, business is a little complicated. So if you run into any trouble and can't deliver the goods, you must let me know in advance. After signing the contract, we will also specify the number of days to deliver the goods every month. If you violate the contract, you will have to pay a penalty. But the money is secondary. The key is that Yu Tianxian is our family's blood, sweat, and tears. I can't let it have a problem because of the supply. Do you understand? Du Lin's words could be considered a kind reminder. Jing Yunjiao wasn't a child after all, so he understood the rules. After she stabilized, she would contract some land and study how to grow the freshest and cleanest ingredients outside. Then, she would be able to prepare for the worst. Jing Yunjiao nodded. The two of them chatted as they ate and talked about some details. Du Lin also introduced her to the person in charge of purchasing in the kitchen. This way, it would be easier for them to communicate when delivering the goods in the future. As for the price, it would be determined according to the market price every month. But now that Yu Tianxian had just opened, it wasn't that popular yet, so her monthly income should be about 30,000 yuan. But her costs were all in her space. She only needed to pay for the seeds, so it was basically a net profit. In a place like the county, this income was definitely not low. Moreover, Yu Tianxian's situation was bound to get better and better in the future, so her income would naturally rise. Chapter 124. With one more source of income, Jing Yunjiao felt a lot more at ease. However, when she thought of the blue and white porcelain jar in her space, she couldn't help but think about it. In her previous life, the merchant who bought the blue and white porcelain jar didn't wait for the opportunity. Instead, he spread the news of the blue and white porcelain jar. Because the old man in Ning City was obsessed with porcelain, he paid attention to it. Now that it was in her hands, If she maintained the status quo, she was afraid that no one would know about it and she wouldn't be able to sell it. After careful consideration, on the way back, Jing Yunjiao stopped by the electronics store and bought a computer. After all, the speed of the internet was always faster than in reality. 2 days later, Jing Yunjiao finished setting up the internet. She clicked on a well-known antique website and filled in the picture and information of the blue and white porcelain jar. She also left a contact number. It was hard to feel at ease with something worth more than 20 million in her hands. Now, she just had to wait patiently. However, to Jing Yunjiao's surprise, she received a call in less than a week. Of course, these days, she received a lot of other calls, but none of them were what she wanted. Most of them couldn't be sure whether her jar was real or not, so the price was reserved. However, the old man in her previous life was completely different. On the phone, the voice of the other party was a bit old. He immediately said his name. The old man's surname was Tang. After introducing himself, his voice was a bit excited. He continued to say, "Are you from Huaning County? That blue and white porcelain jar hasn't been sold yet, right?" "Not yet." Jing Yunjiao opened her mouth. Suddenly, the old man's surname Tang breathed a sigh of relief. However, at the same time, he was stunned. The voice on the phone was a woman. Moreover, she seemed to be very young. However, at this moment, he couldn't care so much. "That's good. It's like this. I want to buy that blue and white porcelain jar. Do you think it's a good place for us to meet?" This blue and white porcelain jar from the Ming Hongwu period was rare, let alone one that was in such a good condition. He didn't feel at ease letting his children and grandchildren buy such a good thing for him. Moreover, he had to see it with his own eyes. What did those brats at home know? "I still have to go to school. I don't have time to go to Ning City," Jing Yunjiao said with some difficulty. "Going to school?" The old man was a little confused, but he didn't think too much about it. He said directly, "How about this? Tomorrow, no, today, I will make a trip to Huaning County. You should know about the Heavenly Fragrance House, right? I'll have someone book a private room there. Let's meet there at 6 p.m. Jing Yunjiao thought about it. 6 o'clock was indeed just right, so he naturally agreed. However, when he thought of the Heavenly Fragrance Restaurant, Jing Yunjiao felt a little helpless. Would he meet that young masterly again? She didn't have any ill intentions towards Li Xiaoyun, but she just felt that Li Xiaoyun's attitude towards her last time was a little too strange. However, he had a gentlemanly temperament. It seemed that he had crossed the line, but people couldn't find anything wrong with it. It was better to stay away from such a complicated person. For the whole day, Jing Yunjiao couldn't help but think about the blue and white porcelain jar. It was rare for her to be absent-minded during class. Xiao Haiqing was surprised and thought that she was in trouble again. In terms of trouble, there really wasn't any. In both his previous and current lives, the past few days could be considered the most relaxed, because every day, she could see Xiao Hongya's appearance being tormented by others. It was to the point that every time they passed by Xiao Hongya's class, Xiao Hongya would have a look of extreme shame and indignation on her face. Even her seat had been moved to the side of the rubbish heap by other students several times. The teachers of Class 2 could no longer stop them. Chapter 125. Xiao Hongya used to flaunt herself as the princess of Class 2. Even if she just sat there without moving, the other students would still praise her. But these days, she was faced with cold and sarcastic remarks every day. She could no longer concentrate in class like before. After all, she was the top student in class. When the teachers saw that she was absent-minded, they couldn't help but call her to the office to remind her. Xiao Hongya felt wronged. After being called by the teacher for 3 consecutive periods, she cried in the office and told the teacher about how her classmates framed her. Her grades were good, and she used to be obedient. The teacher was naturally willing to seek justice for her. But the mouth belonged to others, and the law couldn't punish the majority. The teacher's words didn't have any effect. Instead, the students hated her even more. Just like that, Xiao Hongya went through the darkest week of her life. Her complexion was terrible, and she didn't have any energy. In the past, she was bright and obedient. But now, she was dim and dull. The boys felt that they had misjudged her. Xiao Hongya's looks were obviously very ordinary. How could she be called the school belle? She wasn't even worthy of being the class belle. Not only did Xiao Hongye suffer a huge blow in school, even at home, Xiao Hongye almost couldn't hold on anymore. Ever since Xiao Hongye lied to Qiao Weimin that she didn't find out Jing Yunzhao's address, Qiao Weimin treated her coldly. It was as if he felt that she had caused him to lose a large amount of income. She only went home once a week. She thought that she could relax, but in reality, she still had to do housework and suffered a lot. There was also her twin brother, Xiao Zizhou. He always felt that Xiao Hongye had embarrassed him in school, so he wasn't as gentle and considerate to her as before. So now, Xiao Hongye was very quiet in class. It was as if she was trying her best to make others forget her existence. Her situation was similar to Jing Yunzhao in her previous life. Jing Yunzhao didn't feel the slightest bit of sympathy for Xiao Hongye. There was a cause, and there was an effect. And this was just the beginning. In her previous life, she had spent her whole life being looked down upon by others. How many days had it been? The days ahead were still long. Jing Yunzhao's attitude was to wait and see. Every day, Hua Zhe would report to her about Xiao Hongye's appearances outside the school, so she wasn't worried at all that Xiao Hongye would stir up any trouble. After school in the evening, Jing Yunzhao went back to Cozy Garden first. When she came out, she was holding her blue and white porcelain pot. Before she could get into the car, she saw Xiao Hongye pouncing on her. Biting her lips, she said with a face full of grievance, "Sis, help me please. Tell the classmates that I didn't wrongly accuse you in the past, nor did I find someone to rob you." Jing Yunzhao, however, was amused. This was hilarious. Could it be that she had erased her memories? "You want me to plead for mercy?" Jing Yunzhao smiled coldly and said, "In the future, I'll tell everyone that my sister found a few hooligans to play house with me. She's not so sinister as to ruin my reputation, right?" Xiao Hongye's face paled. If Jing Yunzhao said that, then her crime would be confirmed. "Sis, no matter what, my mother raised you to this age. Even if she didn't contribute, she still worked hard. Now that she's gone, you still treat me like this. She won't be able to rest in peace." Xiao Hongye clenched her fists and said. She was forced to beg Jing Yunzhao because she had no other choice. In the past, Jing Yunzhao was very obedient. She hoped that this time, she could lower her head for once. She thought that when she mentioned Yi Qin, Jing Yunzhao would be somewhat moved, but she didn't expect her expression to be the same as usual. "That's right, our mother won't be able to rest in peace." Chapter 126. Xiao Hongye's eyes widened. She didn't expect Jing Yunzhao to respond like this. Jing Yunzhao didn't mind. She looked at her as if she was looking at something dirty and said in disgust, "Xiao Hongye, don't forget that I found a prescription to save her." Even the old doctor in the hospital confirmed that it could save her, but Xiao Weimin insisted on not using it. You, her biological daughter, also refused to use it. If I were her, I would chase after you two even if I died. I would only be at ease after seeing you two live more and more miserably each day. Jing Yunzhao deliberately scared her. How could she rest in peace after raising such a pair of children? Xiao Hongye's face paled. "I was afraid that your prescription wouldn't work and would make my mother's death more painful." Jing Yunzhao pursed her lips. Compared to suffering, she felt that Yi Qin should have wanted to live more. After all, she was only in her 30s. Compared to ordinary people, she hadn't even lived half of her life. Moreover, Xiao Hongye said it nicely, but in reality, she just felt that Yi Qin's illness had lasted for too long and had exhausted the gratitude in her heart. It was impossible to say that Xiao Hongye wasn't filial to Yi Qin at all. However, Yi Qin was chased by the illness and was in low spirits all day long. She needed to be coaxed, needed to be filial, and even needed the Qiao family's money. In the beginning, Xiao Hongye could endure and accompany her, but after a long time, she couldn't help but want to get rid of such a weak burden, right? Jing Yunzhao didn't want to continue arguing with her. This kind of person couldn't be reasoned with. Their values weren't even on the same channel. "I don't object if you like to put yourself on the moral high ground, but a good dog doesn't block the way." Jing Yunzhao reached out and hailed a car. Xiao Hongye pursed her lips and continued to block in front of her. However, just as she moved, she was kicked to the side by Jing Yunzhao. Her whole body rolled a few times on the ground. Don't think that I'm a pushover. If you're in my way, a kick is already considered light. Jing Yunjiao looked down at her and shot her a glance. After she finished speaking, she got into the car and left. Xiao Hongye gritted her teeth. Her heart was unwilling. After thinking about it, she climbed up in a sorry state and hurriedly hailed a car to follow. She wanted to see where Jing Yunjiao was going to go when it was getting dark. As soon as Jing Yunjiao got on the car, the driver gave her a rather surprised look. He was obviously frightened by her nimble kick just now. However, Jing Yunjiao didn't have time to chat with the driver. In less than 2 minutes, he received a call from Hua Zhe. Just now, the brother I sent to follow Xiao Hongye told me that she took a taxi to follow her sister. I don't know where she's going, but it doesn't seem like she's planning anything good. Hua Zhe didn't know that Jing Yunjiao was the boy who had made the deal with him. At this moment, he was similarly exclaiming in admiration at the might of his older sister, Xiao Hongye. Jing Yunjiao looked at the rearview mirror. Sure enough, there was a taxi following closely behind. The person inside was probably Xiao Hongye. Jing Yunjiao lowered his voice and said, "Your brother should be following behind, right?" She had paid 100,000 yuan. There was no reason for him to be reluctant to pay for the gas. That's right. Hua Zhe was a little proud. His brother was the most righteous and responsible person in Huaning County. It was just a little girl following him. It was impossible for him to lose her. Jing Yunjiao's lips curled. That's good. When she stops later, think of a way to get her far away. She's so fat, it's time for her to exercise her body. With the driver around, she couldn't say it too bluntly. But who was Hua Zhe? He had done a lot of bad things. How could he not understand? Chapter 127. After hanging up the phone, Jing Yunjiao requested the driver to drive into a small alley near the Heavenly Fragrance restaurant instead of the main road. After all, since they were going to kidnap someone, they couldn't possibly do it under the noses of passers-by. The driver's face was full of curiosity, but since it was a passenger's request, he would naturally do as she said. Moreover, although this girl was very fierce when she beat people up just now, she didn't look very old. Even though he heard that her tone on the phone was abnormal, he didn't think too much about it. When Jing Yunjiao got out of the car, he even stuck his head out to remind her to be careful. After all, it was already dark. It was still very dangerous for such a beautiful girl to walk into a small alley. After Jing Yunjiao got out of the car, she could clearly feel that another taxi had stopped as well. After taking a few steps and turning a corner, she heard the sound of careful footsteps behind her. She couldn't help but laugh mockingly. Since Hua Zhe said that someone was following her, she naturally wouldn't stay in this small alley. She quickly walked out of the alley after making many turns. Meanwhile, Xiao Hongye, who had been carefully following her, was a little anxious. Jing Yunjiao walked too quickly, and this small alley was dark and gloomy. She was scared. After a short while, Jing Yunjiao disappeared. He didn't even know which fork she took and ran off. This made her even angrier. She turned around and prepared to go back, but when she turned her head, her mouth was covered tightly by someone and she was dragged into a car. Was she being kidnapped? The delicate Xiao Hongye had never encountered such a situation before. She decisively fainted. When she woke up, she was already in the suburbs. Those brothers had specially found a desolate area. Although Huaning County was considered rich, there were still many sparsely populated places around it. Hua Zhe's brothers had even picked a very remote location. Because it was dark and there were many graves around, there was basically no one passing by this small road. As a result, when Xiao Hongye opened her eyes, she heard a series of goo-goo sounds. The mud and grass under her feet made it seem like someone was following her. She was so scared that her legs went soft. However, this time, she didn't dare to faint. Who knew if she would become a lonely ghost when she woke up? She didn't even know where she was, so she could only bite the bullet and walk along the path. The path was long and winding, and she felt that it was very long. There were houses in the surroundings, but there was only one house occasionally. They were far away, and the faint lights made them even scarier. Xiao Hongye was wearing a white dress. Her outerwear had been taken away by Hua Zhe's brothers, so she was exceptionally cold. Her straight hair fluttered in the wind, but it was especially messy because of the torment. She was sobbing all the way, and the tears on her face did not stop. It was a horrifying sight. On her way up the mountain, Xiao Hongya also bumped into two cars coincidentally passing by, but she had scared him away. She could only blame herself for her bloodshot eyes, which were filled with resentment. Her face was pale from fright, and she was dressed in a white dress and had long hair. She was definitely a female ghost. Who would dare to approach her? Every step was difficult. The more time passed, the more desolate it became. Xiao Hongya was on the verge of breaking down. On the other hand, Jing Yunjiao did not see such a scene. If he knew that Xiao Hongya was in such a miserable state, who knows how much he would laugh. As promised, he arrived at the Heavenly Fragrance restaurant. When he entered the private room, he saw an old man and a young boy of the same age beside him. "You're a waiter?" The young boy glanced at him and was a little surprised. He wondered why this waiter was so young. However, when he looked again, he felt that she didn't look like one, because the waiters here were all wearing work clothes. Jing Yunjiao glanced at him and calmly walked in. He looked at the old man and said, "You're old Mr. Tang, right? I'm the seller who made an appointment with you." She had just finished speaking when she saw that the old man and the young boy in front of her had the same expression, as if they were petrified. Chapter 128. That blue and white porcelain jar? The old man recovered from his shock and pointed at the item in the bag in her hand. Jing Yunjiao nodded and placed the item on the table. "I'm sorry, I met with some matters on the way here, so I came late. But don't worry, this item is indeed the one I put online. You can take a look at it first." Opening the bag, the old man carefully looked at it. Jing Yunjiao was very quiet at the side. The old man was very light as he murmured, "Not bad, not bad. The shape is elegant. The painting is exquisite. The design is clear. The blue and white color is quiet. The outer wall is decorated with blue and white inscriptions, banana leaf patterns, peony twining branches on the abdomen, cloud and lotus petal patterns on the edges. The outer wall is curly grass pattern. The inside of the circle is white glazed. The bottom is slanted outwards. The appearance is domineering and noble. The lines are also perfect, smooth and soft." The old man said a bunch of things that Jing Yunjiao couldn't understand. After he finished speaking, he tugged at the boy beside him and pointed at the jar. "Zihua, take a look. This decorative design is arranged in 5 layers from top to bottom. Moreover, each layer is clearly separated from each other. It has a clean and sparse atmosphere. It's really a good thing." Jing Yunjiao looked. The boy beside the old man had the same expression as her. The words, "I don't understand," were clearly written on his face. But the old man didn't care about this. After he talked a lot, his face was full of emotion, as if he was saying, why did he only find out about such a good thing now? After more than 20 minutes, the old man finally realized that the item wasn't his. There was a smile on his wrinkled face, but his turbid eyes were shining. His expression could be said to be benevolent. Tang Zihua, who was standing at the side, no longer had the face to look at his own grandfather. He was simply an old urchin. When he was at home, his grandfather was clearly very strict and not to be trifled with. Now, he was smiling so happily at an unfamiliar girl. If outsiders saw this, they would probably think that this girl was his biological granddaughter. "Little girl, is this thing your family heirloom?" the old man asked. If it was passed down from generation to generation, then this girl shouldn't be the one to make the decision. There should at least be a parent. Although he was determined to obtain it, he wasn't someone who would abuse his means. Jing Yunjiao shook his head. "I bought this from a small market in town. The seller's wife was sick, so he had no choice but to sell this big jar. But because the asking price was high, I got it in the end." Hearing this, the old man was even more surprised. "How much did you spend?" The old man couldn't help but ask. Jing Yunjiao smiled and didn't reply. Instead, he asked, "Do you want this big jar?" "Yes." "Why not?" the old man hurriedly said as if he was protecting his calf. Only then did he realize that this girl was testing him, lest he lowered the transaction price after knowing the cost she had to pay. "Can you make the decision on this? I don't think you're an adult yet." If your parents aren't around? The old man was also in a difficult position. I don't have parents. I bought this thing. I can make the decision, Jing Yunjiao said, and took out the certificate she had written when she severed ties with Xiao Weiman. The old man frowned. She had no parents. Such a delicate girl. What a pity. No wonder this girl was so calm just now. It seemed that she was used to living independently. He had a better impression of her and felt pity for her. Since that's the case, let's talk about the price. I won't make things difficult for you. If you agree to the price, just nod your head. If you don't, we'll discuss it again. How about it? Jing Yunjiao expressed her agreement. The old man then said, 35 million. Jing Yunjiao's heart skipped a beat. Why was it different from her previous life? And it was so much more. Chapter 129. She remembered that the price was more than 20 million. Jing Yunjiao didn't know that the merchant who sold the blue and white porcelain jar in her previous life was cunning and greedy. The old man didn't like him, so he lowered the price. Now, the price the old man offered was fair. Seeing Jing Yunjiao's surprised expression, the old man felt a little better. Just now, when this girl entered the door, she looked so confident and at ease. Obviously, it didn't match her age. Now, her reaction was normal. 35 million. If she still had a calm attitude, it would make an old man like him feel ashamed. The old man smiled with squinted eyes. Jing Yunjiao's surprise didn't last long. How could she not accept such a good deal? She immediately nodded. The old man took a look and immediately hugged the blue and white porcelain jar in his arms with a smile. After asking for Jing Yunjiao's account number, he had Tang Zihua, who was standing behind him, make a call. After confirming the account balance, the transaction was finally completed. After settling the business, the old man relaxed and asked the waiter to serve the dishes. Jing Yunjiao had waited for more than half an hour, and her stomach was already empty. When she ate, it was like a locust passing through, but there was an indescribable elegance and cleanliness. Tang Zihua was a little shocked. Just now, the impression that Jing Yunjiao gave him was one of calmness and composure, noble and aloof. Only when she smiled would there be a hint of elegance and gentleness. Usually, this type of girl would pay a lot of attention to their image, but he didn't think that he would be wrong. Jing Yunjiao's movements were still impeccable, but the speed at which she ate was truly breathtaking. She was completely different from the rich young ladies he had seen before. His impression of girls was mostly delicate or cute, but Jing Yunjiao was completely different. However, in the old man's eyes, Jing Yunjiao's straightforward personality was more likable. She wasn't pretentious and her appearance was pleasing. He couldn't help but speak a few more words with her. As they chatted, Grandfather Tang increasingly felt that Jing Yunjiao was a good girl. She knew when to advance and when to retreat. She was polite and sensible. His impression of her continued to grow. It was a pity that Jing Yunjiao was from Huaning County. Otherwise, Grandfather Tang might have invited her to his home as a guest. Jing Yunjiao was a little speechless. I seem to be particularly popular with the elderly? Grandpa Gon, Old Man Su, Old Man Tang, and even Du Lin's father seemed to treat her quite well. While the three of them were eating, they suddenly saw Tang Zihua take out a medicine bottle and swallow a few pills. Jing Yunjiao was stunned. She didn't take a good look at Tang Zihua just now. Now that she saw him taking the medicine, she realized that his complexion was indeed not very good. Perhaps it was because of the high temperature in the private room. His face was a little flushed, and his lips were indeed a little pale. Looking down on Jing Yunjiao's background, Old Man Tang laughed. What are you looking at, girl? Jing Yunjiao restrained her expression, feeling a little embarrassed. For a moment, she forgot that she wasn't even 16 yet. She was completely a little girl in her puberty. It wasn't good to stare at a boy of the same age as her. Who knows, she might be misunderstood by others. Sure enough, Tang Zihua's face turned even redder. Grandfather Tang, don't misunderstand. I was just curious to see him take the medicine. Jing Yunjiao hurriedly explained. Grandfather Tang nodded in understanding and said, My grandson's health hasn't been good since he was young. On the surface, he doesn't look any different from other people. In reality, he's a medicine bottle. If he doesn't take his medicine, something will happen the next day. Jing Yunjiao narrowed her eyes and couldn't help but ask, "Can I take a look?" Chapter 130. After all, she was now a doctor. Although she couldn't make house calls, she would occasionally follow Grandpa gone to see patients and learn some experience. However, the number of times was limited, so she didn't have much experience. Now that there was a patient in front of her, it was impossible for her not to be moved. Jing Yunjiao also realized that she was being a little rude, so she quickly said, "It's like this, I've learned some medical skills." After all, she hadn't felt the pulse yet, so Jing Yunjiao couldn't insist that she could treat him. Although she had absorbed most of the energy from the second piece of spirit jade, Tang Zihua's illness seemed to have been branded since he was young, so it was hard to say with her current level. "You've learned medical skills?" Elder Tang was even more surprised. When he was chatting with her, he felt that this girl wasn't someone who would casually spout nonsense. However, it was hard for him to believe that a child who was the same age as his grandson had learned medical skills. Elder Tang was like this, let alone Tang Zihua. The old man and the young girl stared at her for a while, causing Jing Yunjiao to feel a little embarrassed. If Elder Tang isn't willing, then forget it. "I'm just asking." Jing Yunjiao changed the topic. The Tang family was one of the top families in Ning City. The Tang family's descendants were naturally in contact with the best doctors in the country. Her request would indeed cause a misunderstanding. Just when Jing Yunjiao thought that Elder Tang would refuse, he suddenly smiled. "Zihua, let the little girl take a look." She was curious and even expectant. It had been a long time since she had this feeling, especially when it came from a child. Tang Zihua was a little puzzled, but he obediently sat beside Jing Yunjiao. After thinking for a while, he stretched out his hand and placed it on the table. Jing Yunjiao then realized that Tang Zihua was very pale, and this kind of whiteness had a kind of morbidity. She calmly stretched out her hand and felt a weak pulse. Jing Yunjiao was also surprised. His pulse was weak, but there was a trace of vitality. His weak body couldn't take too much nourishment, but he could not take it. Now, his complexion looked good. It was probably because he took the medicine on time. However, this medicine did not cure the root of the problem. Tang Zihua's illness should have been present since he was young. He couldn't stand the cold, heat, or stimulation. If he controlled his diet and emotions, he would look no different from a normal person. But once the illness flared up, it would be like walking in front of the gates of hell. If he was lucky, he could be pulled back. But if he met a quack or was stimulated too much, he might really die. Jing Yunjiao furrowed her brows. Grandfather Tang glanced at her and knew that she had seen through something. "How is it?" Elder Tang's words carried some sincerity. "I can't cure it in a short time, but—" Jing Yunjiao hesitated for a while. He couldn't say that he would be cured after absorbing a few pieces of spirit jade, so he said, "But if you recuperate according to my method, you should be able to cure it within a year." With her current speed of absorbing the spirit jades, her level would be completely different from her current level after a year. However, she currently had some recuperation medicine in her memory that could slowly increase his body's ability to bear the burden. In Jing Yunjiao's eyes, her words were hesitant and apologetic. But in Grandfather Tang's ears, it was like the sound of nature. 1 year? Was 1 year long? Tang Zihua had been ill for more than 10 years. During this period, he had taken countless medicines. There were even 3 times when he almost lost his life. Even the doctors said that his body was weak and that he could only rely on the medicine to survive for as long as possible. But although this was good news for them, Grandfather Tang couldn't help but feel conflicted. Should he believe her words or not? If he didn't believe it, and if Jing Yunjiao really could cure it, then he would miss a chance to make his grandson healthy. But if he believed it and his grandson got worse, then it would be too late to regret it. After all, the other party was just a little girl. Chapter 131. Jing Yunjiao could also see Old Man Tang's suspicions, but with her age, it would be impossible for her to dispel his suspicions with just a few words. After thinking for a bit, she asked, "Tang Zihua, can you let me see your medicine?" Tang Zihua also wanted to know if Jing Yunjiao really had the ability, so when she opened her mouth, he immediately handed the small bottle to her. The porcelain bottle was white and cold to the touch. It was quite ancient in style. She opened it and sniffed it, and a trace of confidence flashed across her face. Ephedra, black aconite, licorice, attractalodes. Jing Yunjiao opened her mouth and actually named nearly 10 medicinal herbs. This pill was actually not big, but it could be seen that it was very delicate. It should have taken a lot of effort. Although this method of recuperation was not as good as the one recorded in the Spirit Jade, it was still a unique life-saving prescription. It could be seen that the doctor's ability was not low. When Jing Yunjiao's words fell, Grandfather Tang was really excited. Only he and the doctor knew about the life-saving prescription for his grandson. Even his grandson only knew about 2 or 3 of the ingredients. Yet this Jing Yunjiao, relying on her sense of smell, actually managed to analyze the ingredients without a single mistake. Grandfather Tang naturally did not know that Jing Yunjiao lived in the space for a very long time every day. How could she not remember the smell of the herbs planted in the space? Moreover, the prescription was also recorded in the Spirit Jade. As long as she used her brain, she could guess it. It was not difficult at all. Little girl, no, Miss Jing. If you can really save Zihua, I can promise you anything. Grandfather Tang quickly said. How could family wealth be more important than his grandson? It will take some time. Jing Yunjiao reminded. Time is not a problem. Grandfather Tang immediately said, and then said, how about this? You're studying in First High, right? Today, I'll take Zihua back. At most, in 2 days, I'll let you treat him. When the time comes, I'll give you the consultation fee. If Zihua's illness can really be cured, then in the future, your matter will be my Tang family's matter. Our Tang family will be eternally grateful to you. Jing Yunjiao didn't expect the old man to be so generous, but she didn't want anything from the Tang family. Now, the 30 million was a fair trade. Treating patients and saving people was her current profession and pleasure. At most, she would receive some consultation fees. She couldn't order people around for a lifetime just because of this so-called life-saving favor. Besides, she hadn't even started treating. Jing Yunjiao knew that it was useless to refuse Elder Tang now, so he didn't say anything. The meal was almost finished, and Jing Yunjiao had a thorough understanding of Tang Zihua's condition. Only then did he leave the private room, ready to part ways. As soon as he went downstairs, he saw Li Xiaoyun. Of course, Jing Yunjiao didn't know that Li Xiaoyun had specially come out to see her. This was his territory. When Jing Yunjiao came, naturally, someone would inform him. Thinking of Jing Yunjiao's politeness before, Li Xiaoyun didn't want to go forward again. But when he heard the staff say that besides an old man, there was also a young classmate eating with her, he was a little unhappy. This girl was young, and it was inevitable that she would be deceived by those little boys who looked like they were wrapped in gold and jade. Wasn't he being merciful and helping her take a look? Li Xiaoyun's gaze swept across Tang Xiaohua. With a glance, he sized up the little boy. Seeing that the boy's face was slightly red, he frowned. When Jing Yunjiao stepped down the last step of the stairs, he directly pulled him to his side. He smiled at Elder Tang and said, "Hello, I'm Yunjiao's brother. You two are..." Chapter 132. Li Xiaoyun originally wanted to address himself as uncle. After all, it was more dignified to be 1 generation older. However, he knew that Jing Yunjiao had a fierce personality. He didn't want her to be unhappy, so he changed his address. He and Uncle Su knew each other. Uncle Su had asked him to take care of Jing Yunjiao. He was 8 or 9 years older than Jing Yunjiao. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that he was her brother. Li Xiaoyun felt that it was natural, but Jing Yunjiao immediately stared at him in confusion. Grandfather Tang was also a little confused. He had chatted with Jing Yunjiao before. She didn't have any family? So the little girl has a brother? I'm sorry for the disrespect. This girl and I are friends despite our age difference. It's nothing much for us to gather here today. He couldn't say that he was here to buy a large jar. If he asked for the price, it would inevitably cause trouble for the girl. He also couldn't say that the girl was here to treat his grandson's illness. After all, he wasn't sure if this brother who suddenly appeared was a distant relative or close relative. Li Xiaoyun narrowed his eyes. The person he was looking at was naturally Tang Xiaohua. Tang Xiaohua was a little boy. It was inevitable that he was shocked by Li Xiaoyun's shocking appearance. He was in a daze. Now that the other party asked, his face suddenly turned red. However, Grandfather Tang's expression didn't change. He smiled and said, "This is my grandson. He's a classmate of the little girl." The corner of Li Xiaoyun's mouth curled. Classmate? It didn't seem like it. However, even if the other party didn't say it, he could roughly guess. The little boy was wearing a popular brand of clothing in Serene City. The electronic watch on his hand looked simple, but it couldn't be bought without tens of thousands of yuan. As for the old man, he was dressed in a calm and composed manner. His identity was definitely not simple. Furthermore, he had checked the car outside. In short, it was all a lie to say that they were classmates. Li Xiaoyun raised his eyebrows and exchanged a few pleasantries. He took the initiative to send the two of them off. From the beginning to the end, it was as if he was really familiar with Jing Yunzhao. Only two words appeared in Jing Yunzhao's mind: inexplicable. These two should be from some big family in Serene City, right? As soon as the car was out of sight, Li Xiaoyun suddenly said. After that, he suddenly leaned closer to Jing Yunzhao and sniffed, then said, "You were sitting quite close to that little boy just now?" There was a strong smell of medicine. In the past, Jing Yunzhao also had the smell of medicine, but it was fresher and more comfortable. But now, although it was not much different from before, it was somewhat similar to the smell on the little boy. Jing Yunzhao was dumbfounded. "You can smell it?" His sense of smell was too heaven-defying. Li Xiaoyun snorted proudly and said, "Although I don't know much about medicine, I can tell that your male classmate is a sick ghost. On the surface, everything looks normal, but his eyes are tired and listless, his lips are pale and bloodless, and his skin is not delicate and clear enough. Looking at the way that old man is protecting his child, I can guess that his illness is not light. He is a person who has one foot in the door of hell, and his family background should be quite good. However, with your current situation, it is not suitable for you to get too close to them." This girl, in the end, was not very scheming. Of course, he could tell that the other party did not have any malicious intentions towards Jing Yunzhao, but what about the next time? This kind of friendship, if she was lucky, it could help. If she was unlucky and met someone with bad morals, they could casually backstab her and make her lose both her life and money, and she would have nowhere to cry. Originally, Jing Yunzhao wasn't too happy for him to meddle in her affairs. But seeing that even though he looked a little unruly, every word he said was like a gem, as if he was specially reminding her, she couldn't be too calculative. "I can try to cure his illness. It would be a pity if something happened to him at such a young age." Jing Yunzhao replied politely. Li Xiaoyun glanced down at her and said, "I sneezed this morning. Can you take a look at me? I don't want it to be so serious that I die young." Chapter 133. After Li Xiaoyun finished speaking, he coughed dryly and stared at Jing Yunzhao with his peach blossom eyes, as if he was purposely proving to Jing Yunzhao that he wasn't lying. At this moment, the two of them were quite close to each other. Jing Yunzhao's head was at the same level as his chin, and because her figure was very thin, it made Li Xiaoyun seem even more imposing. Jing Yunzhao could faintly smell the faint fragrance on his body, but she didn't feel that it wasn't greasy. Plus, his voice was indeed pleasing to the ear, making it hard for people to feel disgusted. Seeing his eager gaze, she simply nodded her head. Li Xiaoyun's 5 fingers were long and slender, but Jing Yunzhao saw that there were some calluses on his fingertips, and a trace of astonishment flashed through her eyes. Du Lin called him young Master Li, and since he was able to support the Heavenly Fragrance restaurant at such a young age, and was also from the capital, his family background must be very good. The calluses on his hand clearly didn't fit him, so it couldn't have been left behind while working, right? However, she wasn't that curious, and after a moment of confusion, she patiently took his pulse. However, feeling the strong and powerful beating, Jing Yunzhao was speechless. "Young Master Li, your body is very good," Jing Yunzhao said quietly. "How was it just good? There wasn't any problem at all. How was it as serious as he said? It was just a sneeze. Who knows, maybe someone was thinking of him." Li Xiaoyun pursed his lips, revealing a trace of arrogance, as if he was showing off the strength of his body to Jing Yunzhao. "Since you're fine, I'll leave first. Jing Yunjiao glanced at him and said, No. Li Xiaoyun decisively said. After saying that, his tone became more restrained, and he pointed to the sky outside. It's not safe for a girl like you to go back now. I'll get someone to get you a room. You can stay here for the time being, and I'll send you to school tomorrow morning. The way Jing Yunjiao looked at him was already a little strange. The two of them had only met a few times, and couldn't be considered familiar with each other. Wasn't his attitude a bit too eager? Could it be that she looked like one of his younger sisters? Or else, looking at his attractive face, she despised him in her heart. Could it be that he was an old cow who wanted to eat young grass? Jing Yunjiao was not a 15 or 16-year-old girl at heart. She would not be moved by this inexplicable fawning. When Li Xiaoyun saw that Jing Yunjiao didn't say anything, he directly thought that she had tacitly agreed. He reached out to pull Jing Yunjiao back. He reached out his hand in a gentlemanly manner and didn't want to do anything to Jing Yunjiao. Although his hand touched Jing Yunjiao's shoulder, he still kept a little distance. It was just a touch. Moreover, he didn't like to be too close to women. But Jing Yunjiao was young, so he didn't think about it at all. This was the first time in his life that he had done such a thing. But in Jing Yunjiao's eyes, it was completely different. In her previous life, when she was in the Qiao family, Qiao Weimin would also act like he didn't mean to touch her. Although Li Xiaoyun's appearance was pleasing to the eye, this kind of action that exceeded the safe distance directly reminded her of her previous life. She instantly felt her stomach churn and pushed Li Xiaoyun away. The next second, she raised her knee and aimed it at Li Xiaoyun's lower abdomen. Li Xiaoyun didn't expect Jing Yunjiao to have such a big reaction. He retreated a little, but was still hit by Jing Yunjiao's attack. A wave of pain immediately surged up from the weakest part of his body. His face instantly darkened, and his expression was unclear. He then looked at Jing Yunjiao, who had rushed out of the heavenly fragrance restaurant and retched a few times. That disgusting attitude was definitely not faked. Li Xiaoyun's expression was surprisingly good. Some of the waiters behind him were also shocked by this scene. When they saw Li Xiaoyun, who was high and mighty like a celestial being, revealing a painful expression, they wanted to laugh and cry at the same time. They wanted to laugh because their boss's expression was too cute. They wanted to cry because someone actually vomited while looking at their boss. Chapter 134. At this moment, Jing Yunjiao's mind was filled with scenes of Qiao Weimin's groping in her past life, especially on the day of Qiao Weimin's death. That pair of hands waving in front of her, that wretched face made her want to vomit even more. Only when the scene in her mind froze at the moment Qiao Weimin fell into a pool of blood, unable to get up, did she feel much better. Jing Yunjiao suddenly felt that she was a little bloodthirsty. At the very least, when she thought of blood, she felt a sense of venting and even a little excited. After taking a few breaths and calming herself down, she wiped her mouth and looked at him innocently. If she had such a reaction to a man like Li Xiaoyun, it would only get worse in the future, right? Luckily, she wasn't 16 yet, and there were no elders above her urging her. She could live a good life even if she didn't find a man. Just as Jing Yunjiao understood, she suddenly remembered that there was a man looking at her from not too far away. She immediately felt a chill down her spine. The next moment, she saw a taxi passing by and immediately flagged it down. She acted as if she didn't feel the gazes from behind and left. Li Xiaoyun's mouth twitched. Jing Yunjiao's actions just now didn't cause too much physical damage to him. The pain wasn't as intense as before, but mentally, Li Xiaoyun had mixed feelings. But he acted as if he hadn't suffered a blow. He stepped into the elevator. Behind him, the waiters gathered together. The boss is so pitiful. He must be in so much pain, but he still has to pretend that nothing happened. Waitress A looked at the direction Li Xiaoyun left in sympathy. Our boss wouldn't be rolling around in the elevator, right? Waitress B couldn't help but imagine. But when the scene appeared in her mind, she couldn't help but shiver. If the boss, who always kept people at a distance, did something like that, it would scare people to death. That girl is still the best. She was quite cool just now. Waitress C was obviously impressed by Jing Yunjiao's courage. At this moment, Jing Yunjiao couldn't help but sneeze, and her face was slightly red. The people in the Heavenly Fragrance restaurant must be talking about her. It seemed like she should stay away from that place. After hitting their boss, who knew if they would secretly add something to their food? The only consolation was what she had gained today. As for Li Xiaoyun, she could just avoid him in the future. She reckoned that after this incident, Li Xiaoyun would not want to see her anymore. After Jing Yunzhao returned to the cozy garden, she immediately entered the space to continue absorbing the spirit jade. The second piece of spirit jade was completely integrated with her overnight. The speed was faster than before. The next morning, she went to the rented courtyard as usual and prepared the ingredients that Du Lin needed before heading to school. These ingredients were delivered directly by the driver of the car she rented. This driver had a few days of experience and could do a good job. Moreover, he had a simple and honest personality. Jing Yunzhao also let Du Lin sign a contract with him on her behalf, so she was not afraid that he would embezzle the ingredients. As soon as Jing Yunzhao arrived at school, he was informed by Xiao Haiqing that Xiao Hongya had just applied for leave from the teacher. You didn't see it, but Xiao Hongya's white dress is almost black. There's a big tear on her leg. Her face is a little purple, and her eyes are dull like a fool's. I don't know what she did last night. Xiao Haiqing laughed loudly. Jing Yunzhao was surprised at first, then laughed. She guessed that Xiao Hongya walked alone in the dark for a long time last night, right? Chapter 135. Although Jing Yunzhao was the one who did this, she didn't know that Xiao Hongya had been walking along the path all the way until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning the next day. That place was remote. Other than the muddy path, there wasn't a single road sign. Xiao Hongya had no choice but to brace herself and walk forward. Once she stopped, she could feel the cold wind blowing around her, especially when she saw the yellow and white paper flowers on the tombs rustling in the wind. She was so scared that her scalp went numb. She didn't dare to stay any longer. Xiao Hongya was a girl after all. She rarely participated in physical education classes since she was young, so she walked very slowly. The longer she walked, the more tired she got. In the end, she kept walking and stopping. Because it was dark, she even fell down a few times. It was only when dawn came that a kind driver gave her a ride to school. Only then did Xiao Hongya know that she had been walking in the opposite direction the whole night. She almost vomited to death in her heart. However, after a night of fright and being exposed to the cold wind, she had a high fever when she came to school. She should be resting in the infirmary now. Jing Yunzhao originally thought that even though Xiao Hongya was annoying, she was still just a little girl now. After letting her experience the pain she suffered in her past life, if she was still sensible, then Jing Yunzhao wouldn't want to be entangled with her too much. However, she just had to come knocking on her door. She didn't want to harm others, but she also couldn't wait to be schemed against by others. Since Xiao Hongya's bad habits were hard to change, no matter what she suffered now, it was all her own fault. Xiao Hongya's illness was very serious. She still hadn't recovered after going to the infirmary that day. The school saw that her condition wasn't good, so they simply sent her to a proper hospital. If it was in the past, the students of Class 2 would have already organized a group to visit her. However, they didn't do so now. However, there were always one or two who didn't understand. For example, Class 1's Jiang Xia. Perhaps it was because Jing Yunzhao wasn't so fierce during this period of time. Jiang Xia's nature was revealed again. He always felt that everything was caused by Jing Yunzhao. On this day, Jiang Xia used his pocket money to buy a bouquet of flowers and rushed to the hospital. In the hospital, Xiao Weiman was frowning and looking at Xiao Hongya with annoyance. This girl didn't want to leave the hospital. It's just a fever. It's not a terminal illness. Why can't she recuperate anywhere? What's more, the hospital beds cost money, the foredrip cost money, and even food cost money. If he knew how to squander money at such a young age, what would he do in the future? Xiao Weiman was still thinking about the ginseng. Every night, he would dream of Jing Yunzhao swallowing the ginseng bite by bite. Now that money was mentioned, he felt pain all over. Jiang Xia pushed open the door and entered. His face was filled with respect, and it was impossible to tell that Xiao Weiman's expression was hostile. Xiao Hongya, I'm here to visit you on behalf of our class. I hope that you'll recover soon. Jiang Xia passed the flowers over as Yang Wang smiled. Xiao Weiman frowned. Representing a class? Just a bouquet? However, he wasn't so muddle-headed as to get angry at an outsider. He just concealed his displeasure. However, when he remembered that his daughter was from class 2, he couldn't help but ask, why haven't I seen any of your classmates come to visit you? Xiao Hongya lay on the hospital bed, her face pale. Just as she was about to explain, Jiang Xia laughed and said, "Isn't it all Jing Yunjiao's fault? Uncle, you should teach him well. What's the point of always bullying Xiao Hongya? These days, everyone in school is saying that Hongya's character isn't good. She's been isolated by her classmates. No matter how she tries to explain, no one will listen. Oh right, her seat has been pushed to the back, which seriously affected her grades. 2 days ago, she ranked in the top 10 in class. Chapter 136. Jiang Xia's original intention was very simple, which was to tell Uncle Qiao about Xiao Hongya's situation. Uncle Qiao would definitely feel sorry for his daughter and would naturally find trouble with Jing Yunjiao. No matter how powerful Jing Yunjiao was, he still had to listen to the words of his elders, right? He would let nature take its course and let her apologize and clear up the rumors about Xiao Hongya. Then his beloved goddess would not have to suffer so much. But he did not understand Xiao Weiman. To Xiao Weiman, his daughter was not a sweet little jacket, but a useless waste of money. From what he heard, the reason why the students of Class 2 did not come to visit was because Xiao Hongya had provoked public anger. And now, not only did she not get along well with her classmates, her grades were getting worse and worse. Since young, he had taught his daughter to get along well with her classmates because he was afraid that she would offend people and cause trouble everywhere. Of course, he also hoped that she could make some useful friends in the future. It would be best if their families were rich and powerful. Otherwise, it would be a waste of her looks and temperament. Who knew that not only did she not do it, but she also ended up like this? A wave of anger arose spontaneously. Xiao Weiman was too lazy to put on an act. He reached out and snatched the flower and threw it to the side. The next moment, he pulled out the needle in Xiao Hongya's hand and fiercely said, "Leave the hospital." "Dad, what are you doing, Dad? I feel terrible," Xiao Hongya cried. She hated Jiang Xia to death in her heart. This Jiang Xia must have deliberately come to undermine her. Who knows, he might have been bribed by Jing Yunjiao to harm her. "Stop." Right at this moment, an exquisite-looking girl rushed in from the door of the ward. Behind her was a rich lady. Xiao Weiman was momentarily stunned. He was good at judging people. His intuition told him that this pair of mother and daughter were not ordinary. Since they were willing to speak up for Hongya, it was better to give them some face. The girl ran up to her and asked, "Xiao Hongya, are you okay?" "It's you?" Xiao Hongya was shocked. The day she was kidnapped and left on a small road, it was this girl and her parents who saved her. That day was the most embarrassing day of her life. To be honest, she thought that she would never see him again. Now that he suddenly appeared in front of her, she was not happy. The girl was a little arrogant. She was dressed in branded clothes from head to toe and had a hair bun on her head. After helping Xiao Hongya onto the bed, she said, "The reason why we went to Huaning County that day was because we wanted to help with the school transfer procedures for my class. My dad donated quite a bit of money to the school. On Monday, we will definitely be reassigned to classes again. At that time, will you be willing to be in the same class as me?" She had just arrived at Huaning County, so she didn't know anything about this place. Coincidentally, she met Xiao Hongya, so it wasn't a bad idea to have her help her find out some things. Xiao Hongya was shocked and jealous. Although this girl had helped her now, she had lost face in front of her twice. It would probably be difficult for her to raise her head in the future. Moreover, what right did her father have to decide the class allocation just because he donated money? Since she wanted to be in the same class as her, she could have just gone to class 2. Why did she have to follow her? Xiao Hongya thought this in her heart, but she couldn't say it out loud. She could only try her best to pull up the corners of her mouth and smile gently. "Transfer to our school? What a coincidence. Last time, it was all thanks to you, Uncle and Annie's help. I haven't had the chance to thank you yet. Why don't I treat you to a meal when we get back? It can also be considered as officially becoming friends with you." A trace of disdain flashed across the girl's eyes. Friends? She was just a follower. She thought too highly of herself. The girl's appearance was charming, but a little sharp and flamboyant. This kind of appearance was what Xiao Hongya liked the most. Of course, it was only because her flamboyant personality could set off her gentleness and cuteness. Chapter 137. The transfer students hadn't arrived yet, but the news of class allocation had already spread throughout the school. According to the school's explanation, the group of students would be divided into 3, 6, and 9 grades. The ones with the best grades would naturally be in the same class. Therefore, on Friday, the entire school had a big test. Jing Yunjiao's grades had always been very stable, and she did the questions as per normal. When she came out of the examination room, she saw that Xiao Haiqing's expression wasn't very good. Xiao Haiqing's grades had always been above average. These days, under the influence of Jing Yunjiao, she had also read a lot of books. However, in her opinion, there was still some distance between her and the top 50 in the school. Her grades weren't what she was worried about, more or less, it didn't matter. The key was that if she was assigned to another class, then she wouldn't be able to find a better friend than Jing Yunjiao. At this time, her face was full of anger, and her eyebrows were furrowed. That aura made the surrounding students retreat. Looking at Jing Yunjiao, he was calm and composed. His pair of black eyes were deep and clear. He was also a student, but he had a different temperament compared to the others. When the two of them were together, the others didn't dare to come close. You're still laughing? If I'm eliminated, then you'll have to face that Xiao Hongya alone in the future. Xiao Haiqing rolled her eyes at her and scolded her for being heartless. Jing Yunjiao's mouth hooked up and her eyes shone. You don't believe me? In her heart, she treated Xiao Haiqing as her best friend. Usually, she would remind her about her studies. However, with her carefree personality, she didn't realize that she had improved a lot compared to before. Moreover, the class test didn't have a ranking, so naturally, she didn't have the opportunity to know where her strength ranked in the school. Xiao Haiqing didn't need to think about being in the top 10, but she estimated that she could be in the top 30, so there was no need to worry. Xiao Haiqing couldn't do anything about Jing Yunjiao. I can only throw caution to the wind. If I'm really eliminated, then I'll go back and beg my dad and that woman to give the school some money. No matter what, I have to stay in the first class. If that little slut Xiao Hongya bullies you, I'll tear her skin off. After saying that, she coughed twice and pretended to be innocent, as if the person who had just cursed wasn't her. Jing Yunjiao liked Xiao Haiqing's straightforward personality. Seeing her like this made him happy. The results would be officially posted when they were assigned to different classes. There was no point for the two of them to worry about it now. They might as well get rid of their burdens and relax for 2 days. On Monday, the school was in a state of chaos. The announcement was posted with a long list of results and the list of classes that had been redistributed. Jing Yunjiao glanced at it and realized that it was just a class for the top students. Although the students in the other classes were mixed up, their results were the same as before. There were good and bad students mixed together. Yunjiao, look, I'm here. 28. Ha ha ha. I actually got 28th place? Could there be a mistake in the report card? Xiao Haiqing was instantly excited. In the past, she would occasionally enter the top 100. When she was playful, she would even enter the top 200. The teachers were already used to her results. But this time, it was clearly a new force to be reckoned with. It was too inconceivable. This kind of improvement had never been seen before. Xiao Haiqing looked at Jing Yunjiao with a fervent gaze. Jing Yunjiao had goosebumps all over his body. Jing Yunjiao got first place again. A little girl at the side said enviously. After saying that, someone turned to look at Jing Yunjiao. The envy in her eyes was self-evident. However, because Jing Yunjiao's cold aura was too strong, Xiao Haiqing was the only one within a 1-meter radius of where she was standing. Good looks, good temperament, and good results. Normal people would go crazy with jealousy when they were together with such a girl. For example, Xiao Hongya. Huh? Xiao Haiqing suddenly pointed at the list of results. She stared and laughed. Xiao Hongya also came to take the exam, and she even got 120th place. Chapter 138. After being yelled at by Xiao Haiqing, The students near the notice board instantly stared at the 3 words, Xiao Hongya. Sure enough, the second place had become someone else. The originally unshakable Xiao Hongya was actually a few rows down. She was indeed 120. The difference between the second place and the 120th place wasn't just a little bit, but Xiao Hongya was placed in Class 1? Why? Another person suddenly asked. One sentence stirred up 3 layers of waves. There were many students with good grades here who were upset because of their failure in the exam. Who would have thought that Xiao Hongya could sit in Class 1 even though she didn't do well in the exam? Why? They were all students. Since they were going to be divided into classes based on their grades, shouldn't it be a little fairer? Immediately, a few courageous students angrily rushed into the office to ask what was going on. Jing Yunjiao and Xiao Haiqing looked at each other and shrugged. It didn't matter to her which class Xiao Hongya was in. However, that group of students was kicked out not long after. According to the school's explanation, Xiao Hongya took the exam while she was sick. Moreover, her previous results were very good. This failure didn't prove that she didn't have the qualifications to enter Class 1. The students couldn't defy the school's decision, but they immediately hated Xiao Hongya. Especially the students of Class 1. They felt that their good grades were insulted. They didn't have a good impression of Xiao Hongya even before class officially started. After changing classes, the class teacher naturally changed as well. The new class teacher was surnamed Qi. He was an old man in his 50s. Not only was he strict, he was also very famous. Even the other teachers were the most experienced teachers in the school. They were also on the older side, causing the pressure on the students to multiply. The classroom was filled with students. That teacher Qi stood at the front, wearing a pair of thick glasses. He looked at the report cards with a very serious expression. Which one of you is Jing Yunjiao? Teacher Qi asked with a somewhat hoarse voice. Most of the students were trembling with fear. When they heard the class teacher speak, they immediately made room for Jing Yunjiao. I am. Hello, teacher. Jing Yunjiao said politely. Teacher Qi raised his eyes and glanced at her. She was generous and not stiff. He was slightly satisfied and nodded. Very good. Go in and pick a seat. You can choose a classmate to be your deskmate. This time, Suchu and Gan Jinchen also became her classmates. However, the 2 cousins had a good relationship, so she didn't want to sit with Suchu and chose Xiao Haiqing without hesitation. As a result, the 2 of them occupied the best seats in the class. The students here were all top students. In the past, they only sat in the middle of the front row in other classes. Now, when they thought about being placed at the back, they began to panic. Xiao Hongya was the most helpless. She used to be number 2 in the whole school, but now she was at the bottom of Class 1. Her heart was filled with hatred, but she could only follow the transfer student, lest she choose someone else. Jing Yunjiao was in the classroom. He could only hear the class teacher calling out the students' names. Gan Jinchen, Qi Deong, Lu Henin, Jiang Xia, Tang Zihua. Hearing the familiar name, Jing Yunjiao was stunned for a moment. He thought it was someone with the same name, but when he looked up, it was indeed Elder Tang's grandson. He was the transfer student? The Tang family was rich. 2 days ago, he heard that the class allocation was a request from the people who invested in the school. Now that he saw Tang Zihua, it was hard for Jing Yunjiao not to think about it. He saw Tang Zihua walk in alone. He didn't choose a deskmate. His target was clear. He went straight to Jing Yunjiao's direction and sat on Jing Yunjiao's left. The distance between them was only an aisle. Chapter 139. Today, Tang Zihua's complexion looked a bit paler than before. Feeling Jing Yunjiao's astonished gaze, he slightly smiled. It seems I'll have to trouble you in the future. Tang Zihua's manner was gentlemanly, just like a weak and sickly young master. Gan Jinchen, who had already chosen Jing Yunjiao to follow behind, saw this scene and could not help but frown. He had already inquired about the transfer students. There were 2 people. One was called Tang Zihua, and the other was called He Jiasi. This Tang Zihua's grandfather was the richest man in Ning City, while He Jiasi was the daughter of another family in Ning City. His uncle told him that the relationship between the 2 families was very good. However, the He family had fallen and was no longer as glorious as before. The reason why the He family sent He Jiaxi over was because of this Tang Zihua. They hoped that the two of them could cultivate feelings for each other from a young age. Gan Jinshin looked outside and saw a girl staring at Tang Zihua and Jing Yunjiao. But looking at her eyes, it was as if she wanted to kill Jing Yunjiao, which really made people dislike her. Yunjiao, it's rare for us to be assigned to the same class. Let's have lunch together at noon. Gan Jinshin suddenly said. For people, naturally referring to Suchu, Xiao Haiqing, Jing Yunjiao, and him. As for that Tang Zihua, although he did not know what he was doing in Huaning County, it was better for Jing Yunjiao to stay away from him. That He Jiaxi was definitely not someone to be trifled with. He did not want to make Jing Yunjiao admit defeat, but he did not want her to waste her energy on irrelevant people. Not to mention, her reputation had just taken a turn for the better. If something happened in the future, the gains would not make up for the losses. Okay, cousin. For the past 2 days you only cared about accompanying Xiao Haiqing and did not care about me. I was bored to death. Suchu's eyes lit up. All kinds of delicious food had already appeared in her mind. Today, her appetite was finally going to be big. Jing Yunjiao really did not know what to do with Suchu. Her personality was cute, and she was younger than her. Every day, she would act cute in front of her, making her unable to resist. Let's go home for lunch. I'll cook. Jing Yunjiao smiled. Tang Zihua felt as if he was bathing in the spring breeze. Previously, when he met Jing Yunjiao, she looked cold. Even when she smiled, there was a bit of alienation. She was cold and arrogant and not easy to get along with. But now, she was completely different. She looked very gentle. He thought that gentleness didn't match her at all, but in fact, it made people feel very comfortable. This smile was almost exclusively for Suchu. It was almost only when facing a carefree girl like Suchu that Jing Yunjiao would put down all the defenses in his heart and feel the happiness and kindness that she brought. Good. I love your cooking the most. It's 10,000 times better than my cousin's. By the way, it's better to make medicinal cuisine. I have acne. Suchu continued to nag. As they were talking, an unfamiliar girl appeared in front of them. Almost without any explanation, she directly occupied the seat at the same table as Tang Zihua. Brother Zihua, I heard that there's a restaurant called Heavenly Fragrance Restaurant in Huaning County. The environment inside is especially good. Let's go there at noon. Okay? The moment they sat down, the girl hugged Tang Zihua's arm and acted coquettishly. Jing Yunjiao instantly had goosebumps all over. She didn't do it on purpose. It was just that she couldn't accept such a tone. However, she was still considered polite and didn't show it. She turned around and packed her bag. Xiao Haiqing, who was at the side, obviously couldn't stand this kind of scene. She frowned and dug her ears, but seeing that Jing Yunjiao and the boy knew each other, she didn't say anything. Tang Zihua, on the other hand, frowned and pulled his arm out. Jiaxi, didn't you make a new friend? Why did you come over to sit with me? Chapter 140. The new friend that Tang Zihua was referring to was naturally Xiao Hongya. On the day that He Jiaxi rescued Xiao Hongya, she flaunted her great feat to Tang Zihua. Of course, she described Xiao Hongya as incomparably miserable. He Jiaxi pouted. But I want to sit with Brother Zihua more. Xiao Yi used to be in this school, so she'll definitely be able to find a suitable deskmate. Hearing the word I, Xiao Haiqing's hands trembled. Even Gan Jinshin and Suchu pursed their lips. They really had a feeling of wanting to pour out everything they heard. Cousin, let's eat something lighter for lunch. Suchu whispered. That girl's words were even more greasy than fish and meat. If she ate something fatty for lunch, she might vomit. She was already feeling nauseous. Jing Yunjiao's focus this time was different from the others. Xiao Hongya was also in this class. Could it be that she was the one they were calling? She simply didn't dare to imagine that Xiao Hongya, who had always considered herself a princess, would allow others to call her that. This kind of tone might be intimate and familiar to others, but in Xiao Hongya's heart, she might first think of a servant girl. Tang Zihua helplessly glanced at He Jiaxi. Then you can sit here. But this isn't Ning City, so you have to be more serious. He Jiaxi's lips curled up. I know. Then do you want to accompany me to Heavenly Fragrance Restaurant for lunch? Jing Yunzhao exhaled. Hearing the 3 words Heavenly Fragrance Restaurant, she couldn't help but think of Li Xiaoyun. She reckoned that young master already hated her to death in his heart. Moreover, Du Lin's tone was very strange when he called her these past 2 days. Jing Yunzhao was lost in her thoughts. Whether Tang Zihua agreed or not, she didn't hear it clearly. Not long after, everyone in the new class had seats. What surprised Jing Yunzhao was that Xiao Hongye and Jiang Xia were deskmates. Their seats were right behind Hijiasi. Almost everyone who could be considered familiar with her sat together. It would be very lively later on. After the seating arrangements were made, it was time for some class committee members to confirm. Almost all the students in this class had been class committee members before, so they were all eager to try. Jing Yunzhao shrunk her neck, afraid that Teacher Qi would notice her. She really did not care about these trivial matters. Teacher Qi's style made him look like a teacher from ancient times. The moment he arrived, he immediately appointed a student named Qi Daong as the class monitor. This student looked sturdy and was slightly plump, but he was good-looking and seemed to have some sense of responsibility. However, since the class monitor position was fixed, Jing Yunzhao heard someone cautiously say that this class monitor Qi Daong was Teacher Qi's little nephew. Ever since she started practicing martial arts, her hearing had improved greatly. Usually, as long as she listened carefully to the whispers in class, she would be able to hear them clearly. Now, she could hear 2 male students talking behind Teacher Qi's back with envy and hatred. It turned out that jealousy and gossip were not only limited to female students. Jing Yunzhao, you will be the language class representative, Teacher Qi suddenly said. Jing Yunzhao jerked her head up, pursed her lips, and nodded helplessly. Sure enough, whatever she was afraid of would happen. She heard that this old man was so strict in class that it made people's hair stand on end. As his class representative, she reckoned that there would be a lot of pressure in the future. After all the class matters were confirmed, Teacher Qi lectured them and the class ended. Because the classes were redistributed, the progress of each class was different. Therefore, the morning was only a self-study class. The teachers could only prepare the lesson again, so that all the students could keep up with the progress. Jing Yunzhao, don't you want to eat too? Why don't we eat together? Jiasi has already made reservations. It's the same Heavenly Fragrance restaurant from last time. Once the morning class ended, Jing Yunzhao and the others had yet to stand up when Tang Zihua said amiably, "You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."